Many times I was caught in the act, and then my parents, both of them, would unleash hell. I would get an insane flogging with the used fan belt of my father's car. It was terrible. But my mother could see that the beatings were not working, that the stone in my heart was gradually becoming a diamond, and that if nothing was done, this boy could go over the edge. One day she caught me red-handed, then walked into the carton room, looked straight into my eyes and asked, "My son, Aki, should I kneel down for you?" This struck me as very odd and I stiffened. I could see the tears well up in her eyes and it almost broke my heart in two. How can I cause her so much pain? This woman that I love so much. It was this time a different kind of fear, born of love and admiration. She continued, "Don't you know it is very wrong to steal? That's why I want to kneel down to beg you to stop. It will destroy your life if you don't stop. Pause and touch me. That's why I want to kneel and beg you to stop. Let me kneel." I was alarmed that she would do it. It suddenly occurred to me that this wasn't a game between me and my parents, that there was something much bigger at stake. It was my very first attempt to grasp the eternal conflict between utility and morality. Until this day, I can still hear the clanging as the coins dropped. "You must promise me never to do this again." And that was it. One amazing thing about her was she never doubted my word. And also, I never lied to her. Lessons learned. If your child lies to you, that means you must have been overreacting to his past errors. Take it easy, parents. Now, let's leave those childhood fantasies and talk about the reading culture. How many of our children these days crave for reading books and stories that can enrich their knowledge and broaden their views on global matters? Do we even have mentors who are willing to ignite the youth's passion for reading? Just like my mother did, I once read a sad commentary that if you want to hide an item from an African, you don't want him to find it, hide it inside the book, because it will never open to read it. So sad. That was not the norm in those good old days. How did we get here? How or when did that passion and quest for knowledge take flight in our lives as a nation? What do we need to do to bring back those cherished good old days when we compete with the number of books read and not with the number of social outings attended? Is it too late to change the narrative? No. We can bring back that reading culture. Our children must not only be told these stories, they must be made to read them. The will to make the difference is all we need. Our children certainly deserve a brighter and better tomorrow, not the good old days. I therefore join Sir Shemore Badijo in this collective drive towards a greater tomorrow. Thank you.
President Muhammadu Buhari insists that he has no anointed candidate to stand as flag bearer of the party, while the northern governors are advocating for a southern candidate And Chairman Abdullahi Adamu had announced Ahmed Lawan as the party's consensus candidate. Sensitive election materials no longer to be kept with the Central Bank of Nigeria, says the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Well, this is Plus Politics. I am Mary Nicole. The conflict rocking the All Progressives Congress APC is taking a new turn as 12 northern state governors of the party insisted that the party should pick its presidential candidate from the southern part of the country. This occurred at about the same time the party's national chairman Abdullahi Adamu announced that President Muhammadu Buhari had endorsed the Senate President Ahmed Lawan as the consensus candidate. The governors restated their position at a meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari on Monday. Now, some newspapers had on Saturday reported that President Buhari had accepted the advice of the governors. However, a presidential spokesman, Garba Shehu, issued a statement to the state that the president did not endorse the call for a southern candidate. He stated that Buhari was determined to ensure that there shall be no imposition of any candidate on the party. Well, joining us to discuss this are Professor Chris Mwokobia and Dr. Hassan. Both are legal practitioners. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Good evening. Great. I'm going to start with you, Professor, because you obviously can give us some insight into what's happening within the party. And, of course, everybody is literally watching the Eagles Square right now, awaiting Mr. President's arrival as the ruling party begins its primaries officially tonight. But first and foremost, we've had so many conflicting reports at this moment. The average Nigerian is confused as to how prepared the All Progressive Congress is for this presidential primaries. Professor, can you hear me? Yes.
If I got it clearly, what the party is presently doing at the Eagle Square is waiting for the president to show up and then for the primaries to commence effectively. But there are issues that dictate not only the delegates, but the teeming Nigerian followers of the happenings in the APC. The one is the fact that the speculations that the president at some point had approved the candidacy of the Senate president, and that raised quite a lot of hoopla. And then later the president came out and said that the chairman of the party was on his own, that he wants the party delegates to elect who would fly the party's flag. I want to say clearly that the voting is yet to start because the president is not there. I just stepped out of the arena so I can talk with you.
Yeah.
But what is important to note is that the environment, the atmosphere is peaceful, its convivial is not as turbulent as people out there would expect. And then there's still a lot of horse trading. Some of the candidates are still talking to others. But what worries and bothers the carapace of my mind is the fact that you do not take 100 million from as much as 23% and did not spare enough time to engage with them as the possible withdrawals. If you've been following the news, Tunde Bakare said clearly that nobody has talked to him about withdrawing from the race. Chen Jack Rich has said that nobody has talked to him about withdrawing from the race. And interestingly, my friend and brother, the governor of Kogi State, Governor Yahaya Bello, had to insist that his name must be on the ballot. You do not go to a primary without effectively carrying your members along. It is not fair. The ruling party must correct this going forward.
Now, I'm curious because just as you mentioned, Governor Yahaya Bello had a lot to say about, all that's been transpiring within the party. And a few hours ago on inquiring, we heard that there were still certain closed-door meetings that were happening, and that's why the primaries had not started in earnest. But I want to ask you, why do you think that there's so much foot dragging and so many mixed information or communication as to what should be the modus operandi or the way forward as late as it is in the day concerning the APC?
Clearly, this is the ruling party. The interests are high, the structures are effective and formidable, and then you have a party that has about 42 million members. So it is the most populous party in Nigeria. And if you were to unite a party, it obviously means that if your campaign is effectively managed, you are good and going to win the presidency. So there's a whole lot of interest. But sadly, like I noted, the party leadership should have been able to manage interests effectively. And like you also noted, which is very important, the confusion in the public space is not sanitary. You do not wake up to say that the president or the party has approved the concept of candidate, they will say president, when the major interests of the party have not approved that. That's point number one. And point number two, you do not also need to pull down the number of candidates without effectively engaging all the candidates. You should be able to get them to proceed like the political constitution of the amended electoral act which provides. You should get them to concede and consent to possible withdrawals. And that's why I'm a bit bothered, because listening to Pastor Tunde Basari, he said clearly that he bought a form and nobody has come to him to tell him why he has to withdraw for a candidate. Jack Reach, the guy from the Niger Delta, did say the same thing. So I think that what we must do, it's not too late, the convention hasn't started, is to have the ruling party look at these fundamentals, because if things are not done properly, whoever emerges may have a lot of work to do, and perhaps be visited with a barrage of litigations in court.
Okay, I'll come back to you on that issue of litigation, but let me go to our second guest. Mr. Hassan, listening to what Professor Wakobia has been talking about, being that he's also on the ground in Abuja at the Eagle Square, he's been giving us, a fair understanding of what's happening. But then before today, we had seen Mr. Salihu, who's a member of the APC, few days ago, writing an open letter to the chairman of the party, saying that he was hiding behind Mr. President to make his own arrangements, as opposed to what the National Working Committee had prescribed. And they're saying that he's not listening to, the National Working Committee. And now he also went ahead to declare that, the president had picked somebody as a consensus candidate. Just as I asked the professor, I'm asking you, why do you think there's so much confusion within the APC? Even though certain pundits had, supposedly said that this might actually happen. One would have thought that maybe the APC would have been able to put its house in order, but unfortunately, this is where we are. And why do you think that is?
Well, it's quite a very confusing state of affairs in the APC as we speak, because in as much as one can be able to deduce that the national chairman is working in concert with Mr. President. It seems Mr. President is also hiding behind his own fingers because, at the moment, as at yesterday, the primaries ought to start as planned. Without much ado, the national chairman threw a jab into the public space that he had already had a consensus from the North, in negation of what Mr. President earlier had meeting some few days back, that power should go to the South. And with all this confusing state of affairs, it really shows the heightened state of insincerity, lack of internal democracy, how best to treat people with cautious respect, because for where people have expressed their interest ab initio, if the party were to be sincere, this is not an accidental decision. As a Mr. President, you should know that, this is your interest. From day one, you shut out Northern Aspirants from purchasing the expression of interest form. Now you allow everybody to purchase 100 million naira form. At the tail end of the match, not even before the match, whereby the match has already started, because from the one that you purchase the form, you are already campaigning to delegate, you are already moving from state to state. And somebody somewhere will now tell you, no, you can no longer go ahead. It seems that somebody somewhere is writing a script, trying to usurp a process, because for me, I just believe a succinct, free and fair primaries in the APC, at least for the first time after President Muhammadu Buhari's emergence, because their initial presidential primaries was just at the formation level. The second term of Mr. President, it was an unopposed, so there was no testing of this, no precedence of how to prepare for this kind of a scenario. So what I would implore is that since Adamu is coming from the PDP, he must have gained the real experience to manage a situation like this. But unfortunately, it seems lost in the wind of interest. He himself seems to be more kowtowed to believe that he has an overbearing interest above all candidates. All members are the same. Either you are vying or you are the habitat. So far you are a member of the APC, you ought to be guided by the constitution of the party. But at this juncture, it seems there will be a lot of confusing interest, because in as much as the power has been zoned to the North by fiat, by order, it did not even go through any consultation. Because when I say consultation, it cannot just be a one-off. Mr. President will say, okay, give me the opportunity to choose my anointed candidate. At the next meeting, you are still giving them another carrot and stick that, okay, I want to choose a candidate from the South. And then the following day, that same, within the 18 hours to that moment, the national chairman declared a consensus for a Northern aspirant. That on its own is, to me, I would say, it is inimical, unjustifiable, and illegal in the same society. That chairman ought to have resigned or been hacked and booted out, because it shows he's not going to be an unbiased umpire.
Okay.
He has really proven to be interested in the entire process, and I believe such a person should be asked to step aside, because we cannot believe, because this is a ruling party. If anything goes wrong in the manner of approach of the party's primaries of the APC, it's going to affect all of us as Nigerians. So we need somebody to take the chairman for a more tutor. but
Now,
more tutorial on political organized,
now,
how to organize the political
quoting
primaries.
Professor Nwokobia, he did talk about the fact that there's still a few hours to address this issue in-house before the primaries in itself begins.
It's too late.
Well,
It's too
you just
late.
took
I
the
don't see
question.
there's any, I don't see, you cannot manage a whole nation like Nigeria under fire brigade approach. We are too important. INEC date is sacrosanct. If anything goes into a mess today, the APC will not present a presidential candidate. Take it to the bank. The same scenario that happened in Zamfara will repeat itself in the APC, because they would definitely fall short of meeting up with the time being set by INEC. With all these shenanigans going on, no process, no well presented delegate list. There are different scenarios of governor's list, the chairman's list. This is not democracy. Where democracy ought to be, everybody should be given the same way PDP throw their party aspirants open. They should have allowed all aspirants into the game, not shutting out some people. It is undemocratic. I would have preferred both the North and the South, even if it is the party agreement, but it is not written that there should be rotation of power between South and North. But in as much as it is unwritten, and a lot of decisions that have been running within the party, we will implore Mr. President to take the bull by the horn. He's the national leader of the party.
But the APC...
He should take responsibility.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hassan. In the APC, we've seen that majority of the guys who are running for this office are mostly Southerners. So, I mean, I'm guessing that that's why the party seems to be tilting in that direction, because we've seen so many Southerners, whether they be from the South, the Southeast, or the Southwest. They're mostly Southerners. And that's why... And maybe...
It is not yet Southerners. It is not yet Southerners. You can see we still have the Senate President and Governor Yahaya Bello.
Well, they're just two. And I said the majority of the people who are running for that office are Southerners. And I'm saying maybe this is why the party is going in that direction. But let me go back to Professor Nwokobia, who is on the ground at the Eagle Square, who stepped out to speak with us. Now, Professor Nwokobia, you heard Barrister Dotun Hassan, who's saying it's too late in the day for the party to do anything to remedy this situation. But again, in the interest of nationhood and, of course, internal democracy, there has to be a rallying point of some sort. Whether 100 million or not, somebody will have to step down for another, and there has to be a rallying point of sorts. Do you see that happening anytime soon, or do you see a chaotic situation compared to what the PDP had when they had their convention?
My late colleague has only sounded like an activist. He hasn't sounded like a lawyer. He has sounded like an activist and a lawyer. He hasn't sounded like a politician. The truth is that with politicians, can you hear me well?
I can hear you loud and clear.
The truth is that with politicians, there's a lot that can be done in a matter of hours. The party, as it were, can go into a closed door meeting with the aspirants, and then have them, in compliance with the provision of the amended Electoral Act, concede to withdrawing from the race. A lot can happen in the next 1 hour. But the point, like I noted, is that things can be done better than presently. We have candidates aspirants who got their forms well over 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So the party had enough time to attend to these issues. Unfortunately, typical with our dear party, the APC, they waited until this bad moment. But can it be resolved? The answer is a capital letter yes. Can they get the aspirants to withdraw for a few other, 1 or 2 or 3 of them? The answer is yes. Can they get them to do so politely? The answer is also yes. That's the way with politicians. But I hope and pray that going forward, we'll learn to do things better. and will learn to be more programmatic and less rancorous in the way we deal with issues of politics.
Now, let's talk about certain big wigs within the party. Now, there have been rumors that the vice president might come under pressure. In fact, I watched the Lagos State governor being questioned about where his loyalties lie tonight, being that he has two people who are from Lagos State, on that particular ballot, the former governor and the leader of the APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and of course, Vice President Jemi Osinbajo, who also has been, the Attorney General of Lagos State and now the Vice President of the country. And for him, he danced around the topic, and people are asking, who's going to step down for who? And some would say that the Vice President might bow to pressure, being that the former governor allegedly or reportedly is his godfather, even though that has been contested by both parties. But what do you see happening in the case of these two men who we would suggestedly call bigwigs within the party? Do you see one stepping down for the other? And who would the step down person be?
If you ask me my opinion as a stakeholder in the party, I would say that frankly, I would rather that Bola Tinubu withdraws from the contest and allows the vice president.
Why?
My reasons are profound. Bola Tinubu, Asiwaju himself, is practically too old, weary, and tired for the enormous responsibility of fixing, resetting, and reworking Nigeria. And that is why it becomes very difficult for the supporters of the vice president to make him step down. The truth is that from the Southwest, the candidacy of the vice president is more attractive to people across the nation. Beyond the fact that Asiwaju is a political figure and a phenomenon, we're looking at how we can defeat the PDP at the polls. And if you put out the candidacy of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he will be an easy runover by Atiku Abubakar because they are of the same generation, but Atiku has a better spread across the nation.
But many would say, I'm sorry, Professor, many would say this about the president who's sitting today. Many said the same thing about him. He was ailing, he was not fit, he was not as strong as, again, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, but hey, he did win and he is our president. He's done 2 terms. It's almost about to come to an end of his second term. So why would Asiwaju be put on that table again of saying, oh, he's too old, he's too tired?
Let me put the issues in proper perspective. Atiku Abubakar ran against an incumbent president. So it was very difficult for an Atiku Abubakar to take an incumbent, the sitting president, to the cleaners. In 2023, we will not have President Muhammadu Buhari on the ballot. We will have 2 outsiders running for the race. Mm-hmm. And then the issues will be clearly between the competency, the capacity, and the appeal of an Atiku Abubakar against an Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I am a member of the APC, and I say without equivocation that it will be easier for an Atiku to beat a Tinubu than it will be for an Atiku to beat the vice president. And the reasons are simple. The vice president comes with an amazing credential, is younger, is shown capacity, is not only very intelligent, is admirable. And you're not dealing with the same generational challenge. You're dealing with someone who will tell Nigerians that he will think out of the box. And then you're talking about a candidate who's already in power, who would not need so much time to hit the ground running. And that is not to say that I am in support of the candidacy
I was about to say that you
president.
seem to be on the side of the vice president. Could that be who you'd be voting for?
No, I'm dispassionate here. Your question was about was about Bola Ahmed Tinubu and then the vice president.
Yes.
If you were to ask me where my sympathy lies, I say without equivocation that I'm pro-youth. I'm pro an outright generational change. I'm pro in Nigeria where you have new ideas against old ideas. And that is why I, without doubt, supported the candidacy of my brother and friend, Governor Yahaya Bello. He has performed the best of all the governors in this country in the area of security.
Really?
And the greatest challenge facing our country is that of security. He is also the governor who has shown capacity in terms of youth engagement in government. He has the youngest cabinet and is effectively pursuing new tendencies in leadership. And then regarding women inclusion in government, outside the country called Rwanda in Africa, he has the highest number of women in government. He has met the 35% United Nations NDG goals and the affirmative action.
Okay.
And so I am pro a Yahaya Bello presidency.
Okay.
But dispassionately, I would say that between Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, if anybody should step down for the other, it should be Bola Ahmed Tinubu stepping down for the leader.
Okay. Let me come back to you, Dotun. Interestingly, Professor Wakobia is saying that he'd rather the vice president over... Oh, I think we lost Dotun Hassan, unfortunately. We'll try to get him back on the line. All right. Well, Professor Wakobia, I think I'm just going to quickly ask you this question before we wrap up because time is not on our side. How soon do you think that this event will start now that we seem to be at a deadlock of sorts and the still closed door meeting is happening? Will this be running into the early hours of the morning from the look of things?
Like I said, with politicians, so much can happen in 1 hour. I don't see a deadlock. I know that the All Progressive Congress, the APC, will be able to resolve its contradictions and perhaps come out with a candidate before Monday. What is important is that, like every Nigerian, I pray that the party...
I think we lost that connection with Professor Wakobia. So quickly, Dotun
Can you hear me?
Okay, Professor, go ahead. Quickly, we lost you for a second.
Because like every Nigerian, I want a new tendency in leadership. I want a new generation of thinkers in government. And so I am opposed to the Atiku Abubakar ticket of the PDP. I want something new and something different for our country.
Okay.
So I hope the APC gets it right.
Okay. All right. Finally, Dotun, we lost you for a long time. So now that you're back, to wrap up this conversation, who do you see the headliners, the frontliners rather, being at the end of the day, if and when the APC is able to address this issue and arrive at some form of a conclusion or compromise? Do you see, looking at all of the people who are, going to be running tonight for that particular flag, do you see the Southwest, the South-South, or even a Northerner emerging? Who do you think stands a better chance tonight?
Well, I believe I must give kudos to Bababisi Akonde's magnanimity for working on bringing the Southwest leaders together to come up with a unanimous consensus. But quite regrettably, almost everybody seems to have been envisioned to be the next president. And in a context like this, just like the way we must look at what Honorable Tambuwal did to stepping down for Mr. Atiku Abubakar at the PDP. This is politics. Politics. It has an overbearing interest on one, as an individual, from the section of that country and the entire nation as a whole. At this point in time, I would have preferred all candidates have that last minute resolution. But for me, in a way, I would have believed that in this kind of situation, yes, Ashwadi Bola Ahmed Tinubu has really tried. Yes, he built the party, he contributed immensely for the emergence of Mr. President, who we believe deserves to be compensated. But politics does not go that way. We look at the scenario and the series that are involved. The vice president, to me, should have been given that honor, being the next line in that office. He has been in that office for the past 7 years. Coming into that office requires a whole lot of learning. So not that he's the best of all, but I'm so sure that if there are rallying points, we can look in that direction. Okay. But that doesn't mean that politics cannot be decided on the field. So on the field of play, interest surpasses every other issues. Well, but I love Ashwaju, and I love the vice president to come in as a friend, not as an enemy at the end of this entire process. So, so that there will not be more enmity at the end of the day internally.
Well, our eyes are fixed at the Eagle Square tonight. We'll be watching and bringing updates as, the situation unfolds. But I want to say thank you, Professor Chris Mwokobia, Dr. Hassan, both legal practitioners. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Well, joining us to discuss later on INEC's decision to move sensitive election materials away from the Central Bank of Nigeria is going to be next on our discussion. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Nothing will happen to Okorocha. It's all about the administration of impunity. Okorocha will play the script by the time he comes out of EFCC confinement. He'll probably withdraw his candidacy like a good boy. And he would, of course, like every other one, once he recants, we've heard it from Adam Oshiomhole. Join us and you are immune. He's one of the foundation members of APC, so how can anyone expect that anything will happen to him? All that you are saying is that in the moment, he is required to act in a manner that is inconsistent with his own choices. And when he finally understands that he has to play according to the script, they will pat him on the back. He will go back to the chambers of the Senate. That was the Senator of the Federal Republic.
It's unfortunate that the same Southern elders who are clamoring for power to be brought back to the South failed to have a mechanism of calling those people who were elected as governors from the Southern states to come and stand by and do that which we have told the people of the South that they will do.
So are you insinuating that the Southern governors, are you saying that Southern governors didn't?
It crossed the length and breadth of this issue. And it was clear there was an accepted candidate, not for the stepping down of Papua in that election, when the process had begun. Anyone who became was cruising to victory. Even Atiku himself confirmed it. Even his supporters and followers had to go, especially Black Tank and Kamala, who came up his own votes and told the people to turn their votes to Atiku Abubakar. So that's what changed the narrative.
Let me affirm the position of the National Working Committee of the party and the president. They're very clear that former President Jonathan is named by and carrying them of progressive.
But the Bayelsa State APC had said that he has been a member of the party. It was reported.
It was a creation of social media. They never said so.
Interesting.
That's one. Two, he did not purchase the APC presidential nomination form did not submit same, has not presented itself for screening. And so there is no way that those foundational things are not in place. You expect him to emerge as candidate of the APC. That would be the greatest, I don't want to call it of the century. I don't want to call it 419 or that would be the 7th or 9th wonder of the world, or in the world of politics.
But how do you plan to defeat these parties who tell you they have more structures, they've been in power for so long, and they know the politics of Lagos? How do you tend to break through? And why did you, again, choose the ADC? Okay, simple. Give people what they want, and they'll do what they need to. Which is, what do you think that Lagosians want? People say, look, I don't have, who am I going to vote for? That's a very, very simple question that we've not been able to answer, that we have refused to answer, up to now, because the voter isn't dumb. All right, the voter has already shown that they do not like what is on offer. You don't go to a restaurant and they shop something, they only tell you that there's 2 items on the menu. You walk out of it, right? So, but if you go into the restaurant and then they wise up and they realize that they need to give you a very nice entree, then you choose what fits you. Lagosians have not had the opportunity to really look at what they want. So I'm presenting myself as that nice, caring guy next door who really wants to see Lagosians get what they truly deserve and what they want. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Mahmood Yakubu, has announced that sensitive electoral materials will in the meantime no longer be routed through the Central Bank of Nigeria. He also specifically notes that beginning from the Ekiti state governorship election, INEC will not keep its sensitive materials with the CBN. According to him, the decision is to guarantee that electoral materials for the lined-up elections are not compromised. Several individuals and groups have raised serious concern about the sanctity of election materials kept with the CBN after the report that the CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele was indicating interest to contest for the country's presidential seat. And when that story hit the airwaves, it caused a lot of uproar. Well, joining us to discuss this is Paul James. He's the Programs Manager of Elections for Yaga Africa. And also joining us is Ebenezer Wikina. He's the founder of Policy Shapers. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. There'd be no better set of people to have this conversation with.
Thank you and good evening.
Great. Now, Paul James, it's very interesting that this is a conversation, that first and foremost, the basis for which this conversation even became a conversation is that the man who sits at the Apex Bank did not only just say he was going to run for an office, he went to court. And for this, it violates so many rules and laws, as you know, as it has to do with the civil service or public service, and of course the Electoral Act. But as we speak, he is still the central bank governor. Hence, INEC is saying we cannot route our sensitive materials through the CBN. Should that be the first thing that we should be thinking of in a case like this, or should we be pushing for the law to take its course as regards the CBN governor?
I think for me, first thing first is also about how to protect the sanctity of the institution of INEC, because that's the commission that we know have suffered a lot of trust. It has a lot of trust deficit tag on it, and so it has also been trying all these years to see how it can redeem itself of that kind of notion from the vast majority of Nigerians. It is unfortunate that this is also happening to the body politic as at this point in time, especially also regarding the CBN governor. Now, we must also get it that as a Nigerian, he has the right to want to aspire for the highest position of the land. But of course, also he also needs to understand that the position he holds and the institution he represents also, and also his own aspiration as a Nigerian are completely opposite, completely different. They are completely opposite. So as such, I anticipated that if he were a person of integrity, a person of high moral standard, given also the kind of questions or doubts that this would raise, that we shouldn't have had this opera, that when he knew he had the ambition to contest, he would have just stepped aside. But I think also on the part of INEC, INEC did what I thought was right at this point in time. But then also the big question to ask is, must we also continue to go through this route? We need to begin to think about building confidence in our institutions and also learning from what we have seen in other democracies. We have places where you don't even hear about sensitive or non-sensitive materials. People pick up election materials on election day. They move from their houses to polling unit to go cast their votes. And so we also not also lose part of we shouldn't also forget the fact that elections are getting better. With the new electoral laws that we have now, voting will not going to be based on people that are even accredited. So if we have all of this sort of things in our, or if we have this sort of strong legislation in our electoral laws, my sense is I don't think we need to even be spending so much of money, one, going outside of the country to produce sensitive materials. Two, the logistics also involve of first depositing them with the CBN before we start moving them to the state or the location where they will be used, as the case may be. So, I know this is what I thought is right, moving them straight to his office in Ado, and then from there onward distribution to the local government. But I also think that is something they should explore going forward. But then if that question of integrity continue to hang in the air, especially about the CBN, then my own advice to them is to begin to explore other agencies of government that we think we can trust. Maybe the military, if they have facility that can hold our sensitive materials. 2023 is not far from now, so I need to begin to explore how to go about this problem so it can inspire confidence in voters. These measures that the INEC chair has taken last week, Saturday, I'm sure will help to improve the standing of the commission, especially in terms of voters' confidence in the ability of INEC to ensure a free and credible process in Ekiti State.
Let me move to Ebenezer. Ebenezer, you obviously lead a group of people who are called policy shapers. And I want to ask the same question, but in a different way. How did we even get to a point where we are at a place where we're looking for where to safeguard our sensitive electoral materials that originally would be safest in the Central Bank of Nigeria? Because I'm thinking now, the question I asked when Professor Mahmoud Yakub made that statement was, so where else are we going to, safeguard these materials, being that the elections for Ekiti and Osun State are just around the corner? How did we even get here to even begin with?
Well, I've heard so many versions of what the law says and what the law doesn't say. With regards to if the central bank governor has the authority or has the right to contest for public office while still being the central bank governor. I think if you look at it from a moral perspective, I don't blame anyone that feels unsafe with the central bank governor, running or making his intention known, to run for public office. And I think that just as Paul said, when we hear the American elections, we don't hear too much conversations around sensitive electoral material. That election starts way before the election date. The elections of people who are overseeing. The election is very coordinated in such a way that all of these glitches that we see in our country, we don't get to see them. But again, this is what happens when we look for strong men, not strong institutions. If our institutions are strong enough, and if it happens that we don't have a law currently that stops someone within that position from running for the legislature, I think there's need for that kind of law. If anybody wants to contest for office, just like the ministers did, you step down, you resign, you move on, you become an ordinary citizen, and then you begin to contest for that election. I also think that there are two things I'm thinking of, and I think Ekiti State is a good case study. It would be a good chance to test this new thoughts by INEC. The two things I'm thinking of, first is logistics. We know that Nigeria has a challenge of election materials not getting to the position, not getting to the electoral units on time. Polling units, they have to look them till 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock before they get their living. So has that been a challenge because of the central bank, or would this new move of moving sensitive materials to the INEC office in the state and eventually to the polling units be a better solution? That is still left for us to see. I'm also thinking of security, and I think Paul is right for saying we need to begin to think of ways to involve even the military. I mean, there's nothing wrong just because we know where we are currently and knowing that there is very little trust in the electoral system. Anything we can do to make people feel like their votes count, I think we should definitely do it. And security, making sure that the logistics are on point, ensuring that things move very fast from the respective INEC offices to the polling units would be a very important step to take.
All right, we see that we are all applauding the fact that the Electoral Act, as amended, has given our election or the electoral process a boost of sorts, and Nigerians have some level of hope. But then again, I'm looking at responsibilities being packed on INEC, responsibilities that should originally not be their problem, being heaped on INEC, being that there's been a lot of dereliction of duties or a lot of lawlessness in terms of how our electoral processes should run. And what does that do to the back of INEC, being that they already have their plate full? I mean, we have governments and leaders and legislators who pick and choose what laws, to obey. And then, of course, at the end of the day, INEC has to somewhat shoulder some of these responsibilities that are not necessarily INEC's in the first instance. How do we even, unburden INEC going forward? It's not enough for us to say, we're going to be electronically transmitting results. But what about the other loopholes that need to be plugged?
Well, I think if that question is to me, there have been a lot of advocacy around unbundling INEC, and I think it's gradually yielding fruits because there are conversations also around, for instance, starting an electoral offenses commission that will take up that responsibility of prosecution away from INEC. And also the part that remains to be seen is the part about handling election logistics. Don't forget, INEC is also managing monitoring political party primaries and the likes. So I think it will be a greater achievement if we're able to unbundle INEC and especially take off the part around management of election logistics. If we recall what happened in 2019, the eve of the election, before the election was postponed, we heard that some high-ranking INEC officials were even at were seen around the airports, for instance, trying to ship election materials on the eve of the election to some states across the country. And so that also, divides their attention. Instead of planning or preparing for the election that was to happen the day ahead, INEC officials were busy going around. So I think it will be a big achievement, like I said, if we're able to achieve that. Within the premise of what we have currently, for instance, we are seeing improvement, especially around the election. That's why I hold the opinion that the idea of sensitive or not sensitive material, we should begin to think about how that will go off our election. For instance, if you think about the bimodal voter verification system that has now been introduced, it has a dual capacity of checking your fingerprints, checking the facial recognition, and also the permanent voter's card. This is also telling us that without the PVC, for instance, we should be able to vote. That is, if the correct voter has approached INEC official, and then the person the fingerprint is authentic, verified, it should be able to bring up the voter's detail on the bimodal voter accreditation device, especially when it is properly coded or entered on the device. So if we have that, I think we should begin to get to the conversation of taking off even the idea of voters card, permanent voters card from the elections, of taking about what we can use to identify voter,
Okay.
maybe any means of identification before the voter votes.
Okay.
But also within the existing framework also, I have talked earlier about think about what determines overvoting. Now, it's going to be based on the number accredited. By that, it means an individual have to come to the polling unit before the person is administered for the election. So it means that will eliminate the idea of anybody can take the sensitive materials in the polling or election. It has to be the correct voter before the person is allowed to vote.
Okay. All right. Quickly, because we are out of time. Ebenezer, just in a few words, as young persons who are pushing for good governance, young persons who are saying enough is enough, we want the right things to be done, should we also not be pushing for, I don't know, some form of the strengthening of, the rule of law or the judiciary in terms of airing persons, people who are going against, the Electoral Act or the laws of the land in terms of running for offices or, remember that there was a drag within the House of National Assembly as to who should step down 30 days before the elections, for public office holders. It's not enough for us to say, let's all get our PVCs, but what about us pushing for proper good governance and also helping the judiciary to do its job? Quickly.
Yeah, apologies, I just had a process. But if I could just quickly jump in, I think it's a work in progress, right? Just as Paul said, I don't think we'll be able to get every form of reform at the same time. I mean, the Electoral Act was a huge victory, and it's a first step in the right direction. And I think as we continue to work together, as we continue to advocate for the correct things to be done, as we continue to advocate for the rule of law to be followed, I mean, I'm just excited seeing that political parties, I mean, for the first time, really just me observing that they were scared to not beat the INEC deadline. Really, that's been really cool, right? So it means that people really can respect laws. And so if we continue to emphasize and we continue to ask for the right things to be done, I'm sure we'll eventually get there. But I think it's the first step is letting people get their PVCs. Because it's only when they get their PVCs that they can vote, right? And then as we continue the process, we can continue to advocate for other key issues.
Well, I want to say thank you, gentlemen. Paul James is of Yaga and Ebenezer Wikina is the founder of Policy Shapers. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation and keep doing the good work.
Thank you very much and good luck to you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all for staying with us. Well, we have our eyes on the Eagle Square, where the ruling All Progressive Congress is about to have its convention and, of course, the presidential primaries. And every single person in this country is waiting to find out who emerges as the flag bearer. We'll bring you more reports in our subsequent news bulletins. I'm Mary Anna Cohn. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
He suffered equally confessed.
Now 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, then go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thoughts and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
My name is Demola Bakri. To the new entrants to my world, I am Honorable Justice Demola Bakri, a prince from the Jibosho ruling house of the Bagura nation. I was born in Ibadan, then the capital of Old Western State, now the capital of Oyo State. Those were lovely days of peace and tranquility. I attended UMC demonstration school at Okeado, Ibadan. And I remember after school work with my sister and other students from school compound through Imale Falafia College Crescent area. Then, we all never knew what life had in stock for us. It was a life of K, Sera. We had fun, just sleeping and waking up for school the next day. I remember the midday meal, sometimes yam, porridge, and vegetables. I remember fan milk. The dream was to be an electronic engineer, to understand how a voice from the box could reach so many homes. I remember rediffusion, also my neighbor's television in the early 70s, and my father's struggle to buy one. I remember later my mother's struggle to buy a radio cassette player for the family. It was a compensation for our hard work at cleaning the compound. I remember the creation of states in 1976 and our usual weekend trips from Abeokuta to Ibadan. I remember the Ibadan-Abeokuta road and the Odeda sharp bend with inscription, "Sharp bend ahead, many have gone, be careful." It was indeed an era to behold. I remember the good old days of common entrance into secondary schools and the right to choose based on your ability when it was only 5 kobo per term as allowances. Today, in reflection, I wonder why we cannot have a brighter future. Yes, our children deserve more. Let each of us rise to contribute our quota to see to a bright and wonderful future for Nigeria. We still have an opportunity to print our foot boldly on the positive sides of sands of time. Our children deserve a brighter and better tomorrow. Not just the good old days. Let's change the narrative. I join Shemore in this collective drive towards a greater tomorrow. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. I am Osayiwa Mesali. It's an interesting week we have today.
Very interesting.
So we have Alera Boyo. She's back. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Like all of you just abandoned me, really.
See, you know when life happens, you just have to respect life and just allow it to go through.
Well, you're looking rather ravishing.
Thank you.
I love everything.
I feel good. I mean, I'm in a very good place. I'm excited. I recently I'm recently transitioning from industries with work. I'm still doing partnership management, by the way. But I mean, it's fun. It's a new journey. I'm about to start next week. So this is
just resigning took off all the pimples.
You see, that product that is about to come to market, I mean, it was a lot of work because, when you're building a new product management is not something that is quite easy, mostly when you have to mix work and then family and then your personal hustle. But I'm resting. This is my restful week. Hopefully you guys get to see more of me this week.
Hopefully we are praying so.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, it's good to be back. So what did you miss? Or what did we miss?
With me? Let me see. What did you miss? Not much. I've just been rounding up work. I'm writing a book, I told you, which is really exciting. So a lot of things that's going to be coming for me this year, and I can't really wait to share. I was discussing with you a couple of months ago that I wanted to give some people free application fee for Nextford University. I don't know which of ways audience will be interested in, studying with Nigerians. We're in partnership with Nextford University is a school in the US. So if you're interested in doing an online MBA or a BBA, we would probably sponsor maybe like 5 people, pay for their application fee and see. So if you're interested, you can send Uwa a DM, or you send me a DM, or you send Waze a DM.
Please send Alero a DM. I have like
But I mean, application fee, we'll just sort out your application fee so that you can have an opportunity to study, have an online MBA. We'll do
Awesome. All right, so many things happening.
So much.
There's an APC primaries going on somewhere in Abuja. I mean, and again, you can't help but talk about the killings that happened over the weekend on Sunday.
Yeah.
And, interesting one that now popped up again today on our timelines. Somebody just brought to my attention that, have you checked your WhatsApp status? I said, what's happening? She just see red
Nigerians.
So there was a Jesus trending somewhere. So we want to talk about that Jesus trending because there were too many things to talk about. It was quite dicey finding what to talk about, but we want to talk about the Jesus trending because I think there's something we need to learn from it.
Yes, there is.
Let's discuss. I want to hear what you have to say. All right, here's what we found as today's quote because I think it's around leadership, right? Leadership is about empathy. It's about having the ability to relate to and connect with people for the purpose of inspiring and empowering lives. This was from Oprah Winfrey. This quote is quite interesting and it will sit well in the conversation that we're having today. So I'd mentioned earlier, last Sunday, the 5th of June, was an emotional day for Nigerians and people all over the world who saw the video of people shot, some say bombed, right? Some say shot and killed in the Catholic Church in Owo, Ondo State, by unknown masked men. Now, while this gruesome massacre of these churchgoers was reported, we also got news that the president was hosting his party members in Abuja, and it was like, nothing was going on, and Nigerians were just carrying about all of their business. So it's our ladies' night out, and Alera and I will be discussing this trend, right? Because while all of those was happening, it seemed that there was a dead silence, and all of a sudden today we just see Jesus trending, right? So we want to discuss that trend today, and that's what we'll be discussing. And when we open our phone lines, I would really love to hear what your thoughts on this will be. But first, let's take a break to see what we found in the news. All right, you're still watching Ways. Now, access to sufficient amounts of safe food is key to sustaining life and promoting good health. Foodborne illnesses are usually infectious or toxic in nature and often invisible to the plain eye, caused by bacteria, viruses, parasites, or chemical substances entering the body through contaminated food or water. Food safety has a critical role in assuring that food stays safe at every stage of the food chain, from production to harvest, processing, storage, distribution, all the way to preparation and consumption. With an estimated 600 million cases of foodborne illnesses annually, unsafe food is a threat to human health and economies, disproportionately affecting vulnerable and marginalized people, especially women and children, population affected by conflict and migrants. An estimated 420,000 people around the world die every year after eating contaminated food, and children under 5 years of age carry 40% of foodborne disease burden, with about 125,000 deaths every year. And World Food Safety Day on 7th of June aims to draw attention and inspire actions to help prevent, detect and manage foodborne risk, contributing to food security, human health, economic prosperity, agriculture, market access, tourism, sustainable development. So this is a very, very critical day. I mean, if you've ever suffered food poisoning, that is just the tip of the iceberg, like really going and eating something that is, really contaminated. Wow. So
we just have to be very,
just keep drawing awareness.
Yeah, we have to be very careful.
It's so interesting that I was on my way back from. I went over the weekend. I went to see my kids. They're in Osun State. On my way back from Osun State, so I saw all these women. All these women that sell lemon and lime. There's always some concentrate that they put in the bottle. To preserve it. Oh, okay. That's the one they already extracted. The extracted lemon and lime and all of that. I saw the woman. She had poured it. Next thing, looking at her hand, and she cocked the bottle. And somebody's gonna buy this. Honestly, it was just like. She was licking everything. I said, God of heaven.
Goodness me. This is one I haven't seen. I mean, regarding fruits mostly, I think they've advised that when you buy your fruits, you have to vinegar, salt, wash it. If it's like mangoes and the rest that have like full cover like apples, you can actually still use soap to wash it with your sponge. Just ensure that it's clean. Yeah. Because you'll be wondering that where is my problem coming from? You do not know that it's you that went to. Let's be guided.
Let's be guided. Let's find what we found in the news.
Okay, so from my end, Lagos Okada ban destruction targets Northerners. That's what they're saying right now. So the coalition of Northern Group has warned against the ongoing seizure and destruction of Okada motorcycles directed by the Lagos State government, saying the action targets Northern operators and therefore was completely unacceptable. So the CNG, in a statement by its spokesperson, Abdul Aziz Suleiman, noted that it was a rash, irrational, insensitive, and wicked decision that the Lagos State government actually passed out 72 hours after announcing the ban. And they've actually been able to seize 7,548 bikes, and these bikes are mostly owned by the Northerners that are actually, operating them. So the man actually mentioned that we note that as of recent, the state government in the South have resorted to imposing and enforcing controversial, unfriendly, and damaging legislation that effectively curtails the right of freedom of movement of Northern people living amidst the state. So I feel like this needs to be handled quickly, because you know how Northerners do not take lightly of certain things, and they feel like it's not a good, a good law that has been passed. It was passed like last week or 2 weeks ago, and over how many thousand bikes have been seized.
Even though implemented.
Yes,
it's been passed a long time ago. Yeah. The implementation only took effect from the 1st of June.
So what I'm really concerned about right now is that they are not paying attention to the fact that the reason why the government actually stopped the bike movement is mostly for safety and insecurity. So now it's being looked as if they're actually targeting the Northerners, even though we know that the most people that ride bikes in Lagos and Northerners, right? But we also still have the Yoruba people, we have Igbo people, and people from other cultural background riding Okadas in Lagos. But the main reason, the major reason for the closure or for the, what do you call it now, the ban is because of insecurities that have been too much in the country. I mean, accidents have happened. Remember the one that happened at Lagos, not Lagos, the Lekki-Ekpe Expressway, that they had to burn the buses at a particular time because the Okada had an accident. I think the person got killed. It's really terrible that a lot of people have been affected, mostly their livelihood. I think that's the major reason why they're actually
Even though,
upset.
so earlier today, someone has shared a video to my WhatsApp.
Yeah.
I think there was an uproar around, is it Alagbuli, or one area in Lagos, where protest was ongoing and there was, real rancor. You could see a lot of people. I wish I could play that video, but it's all over the place. So, I mean, it's a huge situation. We've said it that the government has to find a very creative way to find solution to this menace. Because Okada in itself is a huge menace. But again, taking livelihood off of people
exactly
is bigger. I mean, my mom sent me a video just before we came on the show of a young woman in Delta State. It's happening right now because they just did the video. Wow. She went to the market or something. Before coming back, her baby was nowhere to be found, only for her to find that her mother sold the baby to the landlord for that she doesn't have rent money and all of that.
What?
So sold the baby. Yeah. So I mean, it is
rent
and this
money.
was at the point where they wanted to probably burn her alive. That's when
she now confessed.
She had to confess. She was first of all trying to feign ignorance that she doesn't know what happened. So people are hungry, and when there's hunger, there's a lot of desperation. You see people will do anything, because they're extremely desperate. So
where do we draw the line?
Absolutely. So it's a serious situation. All right, so my story is actually, I found it quite interesting, and at the same time, I wanted to address this because this is a common thing I see happen around people. So I give you an opportunity. Whatever you make out of that opportunity, it is all on you.
Yeah.
Where I see people say that they try to take credit for somebody else's success, if I had known, if I had not known, as if, without me, you would have been nothing. I hate that mindset.
Yeah.
I really dislike that mindset. It's something that we should not encourage. I've given you an opportunity. You made the best out of it, and you brought out something great from it. Yeah, you thank God and you move on. But to now say that, it's almost like without me, you'd have been nothing or something. So it's someone called Bayo Onanuga. He says, I regret nominating Osinbajo to work with Tinubu. So this is a Lagos spokesperson of Tinubu organization, his campaign. He said yesterday that, whilst then Governor Tinubu became governor and all of that, so he was the one that introduced, Vice President Osinbajo to be, to him, and eventually who became his Attorney General during his administration as the Lagos State Governor. So he said that Tinubu was just sworn, had just won the elections as governor of Lagos State, and days after we met on the 6th floor of Crystal Laurel at Maryland, which Otumba Gbenga had donated for their use, and Tinubu and Osinbajo, he was the one that started, he started deliberating on the people that would form his cabinet. When he started deliberating, that was when he presented, Osinbajo to him. The question I ask is, did he do his job? Because if Osinbajo did not do his job excellently well, Tinubu would not have gone ahead to say, what, let me keep pushing. Because I get you. Let me tell you something. Success is not in isolation, right?
Yeah.
Success is somebody would see that, I think, you have this potential for something, and I think you make good use of this. Let me put you here, right? So whatever I then make out of it, if Osinbajo was not successful, we'll not be having this conversation today.
I was even going to say that.
Do you understand? So it makes no sense for you to come out to say that you regret nominating him as what's it called?
He should have even thought about it twice before making that statement, because I remember the video where Tinubu was, giving his speech, and he said that they asked him to bring 3 people, and he had 3 people. And he decided that, I'm not going to give you 3 people because you can bring the 4th person. I will give you 1 person. And out of the 3 people, he chose Osinbajo. Tinubu is a very smart man. For him to make that decision, it means that he had seen that Osinbajo could do whatever it is that those. So he had other options, but he chose this man. So it means that you're questioning him for choosing.
I just wanted to put it out there because I see this happen all the time. Where people just say, if not for me, not be. I say, come on.
You're just an instrument. Like I said, there are so many people that, let's use a job for instance, or a business. You gave me an opportunity to go for an interview, right? Me getting to the interviewer and they ask me questions, how I move
and landing that job.
Yes, landing the job is not you. Exactly. It's me that went into the place and spoke and did what I had to do, and I got the job. And they're like, if not for me, sorry, you're not God. Move on.
On that note, let's talk the name Jesus.
Let's call the name Jesus.
We'll be right back.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
All right, so whilst we might not know the real motive behind the popular gospel artist, Pastor Nathaniel Bassey's appeal for people to put the picture with the name Jesus on their status and posting it on Twitter at a set time, I think about 12 noon, we can't afford to ignore the impact and the conversation it has sparked all over the internet. So we are all inundated with mixed reactions and different opinions, right? So in case you do not know, I think I have a few that I'd like to just quickly read out, mixed reactions. I mean, so many people have come out with videos, they've come out with tweets and all of that. So I have a few that I'd like to read. I mean, Lala Akinloju came out to say that, churches have been organizing voters registration program for months. At no cost, they have been educating their members on the importance of voting and being active citizens. This present house has had one snipe match increased from twice a week to daily. I think DCC also has. So has one, but you all want to bully people for exercising their faith. If you don't like it, jump and pass. But bullying and insulting is so wrong. Some churches even insist on members having PVCs. There's no shame. Praying, we will pray. Vote, engage the system and insist. You all should focus on calling out your leaders and lawmakers and leave Christians alone. Now, this was from Lala Kinoju. Then Nia Kimolayan says, stop attacking people who put red letter Jesus on their DP. It won't solve any of our problems, but it makes people happy and gives some form of hope. I particularly like, so JJ Mojwa, of course, JJ must talk, is Twitter. I have seen well-educated and exposed people refuse their children married to the lover on account of religion, at times even of the same religion but different sect. I have seen educated and exposed people do very funny things in the name of religion. What is this Jesus with red marker? on white background meant to achieve exactly? I really would love to know. Even if you educate people, religious fanaticism is hardly moderated by exposure or education. Then, of course, this our gay man, Bestial Limi, says, when your 24-hour Jesus post disappears, your sorrow, anguish, and Buhari will be waiting for you. It says it's like the case of a drunk who drinks to avoid problem. When you get sober, the problem will be waiting to slap you harder.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce this in Yoruba language. Allah niron whatever. So I mean, that's a few. You have Daddy Freeze's one, right?
That you all know that Daddy Freeze does not have chill. So Daddy Freeze is saying that. So his response to Nathaniel Bass's post, he said, Baba won't start another challenge to trend and possibly make bar. Instead of telling people to go and get their PVC, now to put Jesus speak for DP. Who did this to us? Nigeria is living proof that Jesus can't bring peace. It's been 60 years doing the same thing with no result. Bro, come on now.
Absolutely. So our question, right, therefore is this Jesus trend, right, is it worth provoking that change that we hope to see in Nigeria? Has it agitated the youth enough? Because given that it seemed like as soon as it was mentioned, everybody's DP went, everybody's DP went red, right? So is this a sign of youth preparedness for real change? That's the question tonight. Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join this conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-384-663. You can also tweet at us at WayShowAfrica1 with the hashtag WayShow. Alrighty, so this is actually very interesting.
It's super interesting. And I'm actually going to go back to what Daddy Freeze said. See, we need to open our eyes. Like the fact that you're doing the same thing over and over again. We saw our grandparents do it. We saw our parents do it. And we are also doing the same freaking thing. Why? Why are we doing this? Remember back in the day that they would say, they'll send you a broadcast and say, send this to 50 people and then Jesus will bless you or something. It's still the same thing that is happening right now. So when you post it on your status, Nigeria is automatically better because we posted a what's it called? The name of Jesus on our story. So every other thing goes away. What's important right now is that Nigerians are missing the fact that election is next year. PVC, you are open now to go get your PVC, but every other issue is happening that is in your face. Like this thing is happening, and you are seeing that it's happening. The thing that happened, the accident that happened at Owo, rather the massacre that happened at Owo, go back to 2020, the one that happened at the toll gate. We were also shouting Jesus, weren't we? And this is 2 years after, nobody is saying anything about it. Now, the one that happened at Owo on Sunday, nobody has come out to say, this is, even if it's just condolences or whatever, like this is so sad that the entire Nigerians who are participating in this, it's possible that maybe they're not feeling the pain, or maybe they don't have a pain point, or maybe they are not in this same Nigeria that we're going through, we're suffering the same, there's fuel scarcity, there's no food, everything, the cost of livelihood is going up, there's election next year, and we are painting Jesus. We are all Christians, right? But we should stop being, what's the word I'm going to use to classify this thing right now? We should stop being ignorant. Because the more we continue this, I remember what I said the other day that I almost collected my career from the group. We have faith, right? But the way Nigeria is going, we need to do something about it. Getting your PVC is the answer. Not all of this.
So someone says, I like this particular picture that I saw, and I think I screen grabbed it, if they can flash it. Somebody says, Jesus needs you to get your PVC. I mean, Jesus wants you to get your PVC. In case you haven't seen, because a lot of people now started editing it and modifying it. And somebody now posted this one to say that Jesus wants you to get your PVC. You know, quite interesting. But I want to say something here, that are we channeling our energies right? Right? Yeah. So there was a massacre in Owo.
Just a few days ago.
Several cases of mass kidnapping, mass massacre, mass this.
Imagine the one in Kaduna.
Like Kano,
in Kano.
What's it called? The train.
The train.
You know, so there's a lot going on in Kaduna, the train. then different things around the north, you know, even again down south, kidnappings, killings, and
insecurities, you being in your car.
I just wanted to ask that, are we channeling our energies right?
I don't think so.
Because if we want to jump on this Jesus trend, right, I like the fact that somebody said, do this, and everybody was all over the place. But where I now started having an issue was that, I mean, a few people had engaged some people and on social media, on their WhatsApp, and said, this thing where they your status. Hope say you get your PVC. That was the question. I said, PV what?
They didn't even know, yes.
And you see, I said it yesterday and I'll still say it again. Even going to campaign to get your PVC is already too late. Because before you even get to PVC state, you would have gotten to the state what is happening. You will be part of the people in Abuja trying to decide who the candidates will be. Yeah. You know, you'll be part of political parties. You'll be part of the engaging process in selecting who eventually goes to the polls. True. Right? That even campaign for PVC, as far as I'm concerned, is already late. But that is even a good start. Right? So if we have all of this energy, right, are we channeling this energy right? Because I keep on saying that we are a highly religious people.
So much.
Jesus Christ can never come down to Nigeria to help you to do something that he has given you the capacity
to do
and the energy and everything. He's giving you hands, he's giving you legs to do. So I don't know, was it just to probably test his popularity? That's the question, because I want to understand his motive. Was it to test his popularity to see, okay, if I'm still relevant?
So even if he's trying to test his popularity or trying to see if he's still relevant, I mean, just like Lala mentioned, a lot of churches, a lot of pastors are actually urging and nudging people to go get their PVC. So yes, we believe in Jesus that will save us, but still, if he had used that channel to say, go and get your PVC and post Jesus on your story on your profile, it will still pass the message. Imagine somebody saying, have you gotten your PVC? And the person is saying, what is PVC? You don't know what that's about, but they just told you to post Jesus on your DP because it's a sign of faith that the problems in Nigeria will go away by just posting Jesus or by just praying. We need to, see.
How do we rise above this? Because again, right, having a lot of young people going to put up this on their status, on their DP, I mean, it wasn't only young people, old people,
older
on my
people,
status,
yes.
Everybody was just putting Jesus on their status. So I'm wondering, right, could we tweak this and use it to our own favor, where we get to, because, you know, so where I have a problem with religion is we are so religious and there is no level of spirituality with us as a people. Right? So anything that they just mention God, they mention Jesus, they mention Allah, everybody jumps on it. You know, you don't even check the motive, you don't check anything. As long as it is a religious instruction, everybody will do it, right? So I am wondering, was he careless, Nathaniel Bassey, right? Bringing out this at this time.
He hasn't addressed anybody so far since he posted that thing about noon.
I don't know whether he's addressed anyone, but I'm asking you, do you think it was carelessness on his part, knowing the kind of, what's it called, that he wields, the kind of power that he, because for me, I'm just wondering, is it that you're trying to test your popularity? Because what is the true lesson? And that's why JJ Omojua's post was, you know, and you see, despite that I don't agree with his behavior and his practice, what's his name, the BC Alimi guy, he actually made a lot of sense. Because, you see, this is how someone that is addicted to drugs or alcohol would have a problem. Instead of you to face your problem head on, you go and get drunk or you go and get high, right? And when you get high, you act, so in that your state of highness.
Yeah, you've forgotten about the pain,
all
you
your
feel
pain,
better,
your problem and everything. Then when that highness
subsides,
when the eyes clear, you know,
say eye when they cry, they see road.
When your eyes clear, you then see that, oh, this problem still exists. Waiting. So that's why I'm saying that, is it carelessness or is it, I mean, is he? So how do I put it? Is it an act of irresponsibility on Nathaniel Bassey's part, given that we are at a very critical stage right now as a nation? A killing just happened.
Exactly.
You didn't. So if this killing, for instance, this trend was brought up on that Sunday to say, okay, let the name of Jesus come up, and you probably, let's speak, what's it called, calmness, let's speak peace over Nigeria and all of that. maybe if it had come up that Sunday, I'll say, okay, maybe it was in solidarity to the lives that have been lost. You then bring it out at a critical time where everybody is worried about who the next set of leaders will be in our country. So I'm wondering, was it carelessness on his own part? Because as a leader, right, that the fact that if we go back to our own quote, that as a leader, you inspire. You understand? There is that power that you will to be able to inspire a lot of things for people. So it is, I don't know, it's just getting me a bit concerned.
So it's like you said, he has the power. His platform is so powerful that, I mean, you know how we as Christians or as believers, Muslims, when you're praying to God, you have the faith that what you're praying for is going to come through. So Nathaniel Bassey's his Hallelujah Challenge has actually helped a lot of people fellowship and receive the type of miracles that they've been praying for, right? So his platform is a platform where everybody look up to him, right? So I understand where you're coming from the angle of, was he careless by making that statement? As far as I'm concerned, I feel like he was. However, now I'm thinking about it, that what if he was probably making that statement to ease the hearts of the people that are being hurt, or the heart of the people that were being affected, saying that, okay, you know what, just just to spread love and light to the nation, let's post, because based on your faith, and Jesus is, I'm just speaking based on what everybody feels the opposite. So let us just think about it from the other angle. What if his intention is not to derail anybody? What if his intention is just to create, sort of harmony and peace to Nigerians? To say, okay, you know what, we know this has happened. Let's, preach love and light, post Jesus, on your DP, so that you can, to give people comfort. I'm just saying. However, like you said, it is so critical that we as individuals, we need to know the power of the platform that we have, and we need to know how to push out communication that will not be, that wouldn't go the other way around. Banks and a lot of big companies put out adverts and communication, and they get into trouble for it, even though their intention is actually not what you get. So I feel like he should have thought about it twice. I'm sure he has a team of people.
So because, from what you said, you remember what I read of on Lee Akim when he said that stop attacking people who put red letter Jesus on their DP. It won't solve any of our problems, but it makes people happy and gives some hope. And also, that's fine, right? So there might be that part of comfort. Yes. We know that, for Christians that believe in the name of Jesus, we know that it has the capacity to be able to heal, the brokenhearted and all of that. So it's possible that might be his intention. But I'm thinking maybe the timing would have been wrong, because the
timing is so wrong, because this was just 2 days after there was a huge massacre that involved children.
There was dead silence.
So much, and nobody has even said nobody. Now it's just the primaries, and everything has gone back to business, like nothing ever happened.
So there's a lot going around that conversation. But I think I'd like us to take a break now. We'd like to open our phone lines. I would like to hear your thoughts on this, because there's the part of this thing that we're seeing, where we saw a lot of youth posting and all of that. Is this enough to really provoke? Do you think the youth is ready? Young people, do you think they're actually ready for the change that they are trying to agitate for?
Because what I'm even thinking right now is that if you are able to have this conversation, just a post, and people are how about we do something that will make one and multiple people actually go get their PVC, that will create a change? Because if we all do this individually, I didn't even know until you told me, and I went to my WhatsApp story and I just saw red everywhere, and I was like,
somebody also brought it to my attention.
What's going on? If we can just from one individual to the other, we have over how many people? Your own contact list, like direct contact, I'm sure it's over 100.
Over 300.
If you post something about getting your PVC, right? Are you sure we're going to get those number of people message you and say what's going on? But this Jesus DP, even some people say, what's the meaning? You don't know. They just say we should post.
Absolutely. Let's take a break. When we come back from the break, we'll open our phone lines and continue the conversation. Stay with us. All right, so it's our ladies' night out, and our focus today is this Jesus trend, right? We're asking, is this a sign of youth readiness or the preparedness to provoke that change that we're all seeking for. Yeah. Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp 081-803-4663. Our phone line is now open. The number to call is 070-25007749. Religion is a very sensitive matter.
It is
so
very
I'm begging
sensitive.
anybody that's going to call. I don't want any insult. We're just trying to have a conversation.
Yes, please.
Because for me, what I want to say is the angle of, okay, as you are canvassing that Jesus Christ does exist and he would bring hope and he will bring healing and bring everything to you. So on the other hand, what are you doing? Because God expects us to be responsible.
Right.
God expects us to be responsible citizens of the countries that we are in per time. So you can't be serving God and acting like the concerns of the nation you have no business with.
Right.
So it doesn't make any sense, right? So let me take our first caller for the evening. Joseph from Kwara State. Thank you for calling. You're live.
Good evening. Good evening.
Hi.
Hi.
Today is good.
Okay, fine.
Jesus is trending.
I want to say something about human being generally, and I want to say something about a Nigerian, a typical Nigerian. See, we as a Nigerian, we are not ready for anything.
Brother.
That change we are hoping for will never come. It's not a cause or anything. It will never come. It will never come because there is no preparation. We're not prepared, and we are waiting for others to come and start something before we will now involve in it. A change will never come, and this present government, whether APC or PDP or don't even let me mention any party, whether party A or party B or party C, none of them can transform this country anymore. It's only when military government will come and take over. These present people will never do anything, and that thing will never come until we stand up for ourselves. But I'm not saying that happen in the next 50 years to come.
Joseph,
like till Jesus come, it will never happen. I just pray, wish all Nigeria a better future in life.
Joseph.
Yeah, hello.
Joseph, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I was just going to ask you that when you saw the Jesus trend, what came to your mind? And how many people on your status had it? Was your own as bloody as mine? Because everywhere was red.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Oh, I don't think you can hear me.
I'm struggling to hear you.
Oh, no problem. All right, thank you. I think he's having issues hearing me. I was going to ask when he saw it, because for me, I was a bit curious, and, I was now wondering, okay, because if somebody can just say, go do this, and it's doing, I'm wondering, okay, can this person also just say, you know what, let's march to Aso Rock, let's go to INEC, because a lot of people are having issues with their PVCs. Some of them have not been able to transfer their PVCs.
Yes.
And I hear that, registrations online have closed and all of that. So there are so many issues that I think that when God gives you the capacity to wield that much influence, because of the critical nature of where we are right now in Nigeria, something should have been, a lot more at the front burner.
I agree.
Do you understand? Jesus Christ understands that we love and we respect him and we honor him.
I am afraid. Do you know why I'm afraid?
Why?
This guy that just called now has really shown me that we have a lot of people that have lost hope. A lot of Nigerians have, you can hear what he's saying. Yeah. Like, there's no hope. So now it's turning to Jesus. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to be funny. If you really think about it, a lot of people have lost hope. If you see everything that is going on with the primaries, see the whole, we have a caller.
Yeah, let me take over. Sorry, it's been holding up for a while. Sorry. Youngest old man, you're live.
Hi, youngest old man.
Good evening.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine. Thank you for calling.
May you be protected in Jesus' name.
Amen.
You see, this Jesus, the red DP stuff is so clear on how serious people are unserious.
Seriously unserious.
Let me tell you the truth. This is one of the biggest reality that we have to face some fundamental truths about what changing the government of today is all about. It's not about posting Jesus. Let me give you, for example, the other day, terrorists went to the church and started shooting at sight. What do you think those people were shouting? I want to believe as a Christian that they are shouting Jesus. It did not stop from the people that would die or that would have got shot to got shot. What is trying to tell us is that action is bigger than shouting Jesus. I want to see people posting their PVC on their DPs.
Yeah, let
everybody showcase their PVC on their DPs on their DPs. Let's take this PVC thing serious. Look at the trend. Everybody is busy posting Jesus all around, and the atrocities are still going on. I'm not trying to tell you that Jesus has nothing to do, but he told us that we should take what is due for Caesar and give to Caesar, and take what is due for God to give to God. This is the time for us to understand that the fundamental thing we need to do is to make sure we shine our eyes. Make we not say the devil is at work, and there is power. The principalities are there, and they are ready to take it from us if we sleep, because the kingdom of God suffereth violence, and the violence taketh it by force. So it's not about making your DP red. Let me tell you the truth. It's about making your DP to stand with the PVC. Showcase your PVC so that they will understand that this is a serious business.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, and enjoy your day.
Thank you so much. So,
thank you.
You know, when he was talking, I was just imagining us going to the polling unit and saying, in the name of Jesus,
Amen.
You will win, whoever we are voting for. Do you understand? That it makes a lot of sense. You know, we're trying to smile around this, but this is actually deep. This is deep-seated because it means that Nigerians actually were not ready, you know. So I wish, like he said, you're putting the name of Jesus side by side your PVC and say, as we believe in God, we're having faith
and work.
You know, faith without work is dead. Even the Bible says it to you. Without work is dead. So it doesn't, you know what? Let me take another caller. Samuel from Kaduna, thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Hi, Sammy.
You're live. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi. Good evening.
I let you for a good job that you're doing.
Thank you.
You can go on. We can hear you.
Okay. I just want to bring a balance to the discussion.
Go ahead.
I appreciate the fact that we're trying to help people understand that helping Jesus all over the circles is not what would bring the change we desire. It is very important that as we are painting our status with Jesus, we also make effort to get our PVCs. But a little part of discussion that I think we need to get right is to also know the perspective from which Nathaniel Bassey posted that tweet. There's a scripture that you are not talking about. Read that scripture and understand what that scripture is saying. Then you understand the perspective he's coming from. You understand? It's important we get our PVC, but don't water down the importance of what Nathaniel Bassey has done. Please, don't water it down. The other people, if you think it's only PVC that will win election for you, then it's a big mistake. It's not only PVC that will win election for you. There are spiritual manipulations, and this truth is Nathaniel Bassey is coming from a spiritual perspective. So I advise you to read that scripture that is beneath that truth, and then maybe you can have an idea of what he has in mind. This is my take. As people are painting their status, also ensure that you get your PVC. It is not enough to just put Jesus in your status. You must get your PVC. The two must work together.
Absolutely.
As you are doing the spiritual side of posting Jesus, it will not get the job done until you have your PVC to go out there to cast your vote. We need the two to have the desired change that we desire. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Samuel. So I like what you're saying.
Yes.
And guess what, Samuel? I'm not trying to water down what Pastor Nathaniel Bassett did. It's actually very powerful. And that's why it is actually intriguing for me. And that's why we're having this conversation. It is powerful that somebody just sits down and says, oh, can we make this happen? And all of a sudden, it caught a lot of fire.
A wildfire.
So it tells me that, you know, while we're talking about, oh, we're looking for leaders that are influential and all of that, it tells me that we still have a lot of leaders. And you remember we've talked about this thing several times on this table.
It doesn't even have to be
that religion.
Leaders.
That religion is still the biggest influencers.
Yep.
Religious leaders are still the biggest influencers of minds and shapers of minds. Right?
Yes.
So nobody is taking out the power or what he's trying to do. Of course, his motive is trying to, you know,
I think it's bad timing.
Yeah. Well, I would let me take a caller, then I'll come back. Charles from Port Harcourt, you're live.
Good evening, Iwa.
Hi, good evening.
How are you guys doing now?
We're good. Thank you for calling.
Okay. Please, you were asking something. I'm trying to rephrase how you put the question. You said has it gotten to that time where the youth to realize or maybe waking up? Or
their readiness to provoke change. Yes.
Awareness. But I think we still have a long way to go. I don't think we are ready. I don't think so, because I try to interact with people around me here about their PVCs, whether they are getting their PVCs and all. I try to encourage people around me, and I was surprised when I came across some group of people that actually wanted to get something from me. So I just asked them, "Have you guys gotten your own PVCs?" And they were like, "No." I said, "Why?" They said, "Okay, they actually registered, and they would like to. If they are going to pay money, how much would they pay them, so that they can go and get the PVC and boots?" And I was highly disappointed. I was like, are you guys serious? Are you people not in this country? Are you people not in this country? You were supposed to be the people making the difference. I was going through the APC convention this evening, and I was looking at the way some group of people were busy clamoring for one of the supporters. As a matter of fact, when I don't know whether to mention some of the aspirants, when Bola Tinubu arrived, the presidential, the Eagle Square ground, the mammoth crowd that was there waiting for him to come out, and there was no space for him to even come out from the van that he was inside. And I was highly disappointed. I said, look at the way this country is going, and the youth, some of these young people even have the wanted to go and welcoming somebody. People that were kidnapped from that train attack, nobody's talking about them. Look at the economy in this country, nobody's talking about it. This government has borrowed more money, and nobody's talking about it. Look at people that were killed the other day. The level of insecurity in this country, nobody's discussing. There are so many issues begging attention in this country, and nobody's talking. Everybody wants to go, everybody will jump up and down, looking for these old cargoes to come and vote them in again. I always encourage people around me to make sure they get their PVC. Let us start from there. At least let us start from somewhere. Vote these people and ensure that we vote these people out of government, and look for any competent person around and vote. I don't know, I'm trying to be emotional. Please, thank you very much.
Calm down. Thank you, Charles. You're quite emotional.
I can hear the
it's actually very...
and it's true. So it means that we have to go back to the drawing board.
So, you know, a lot of people came out. I remember this Big Brother girl, what's her name? Tasha came out and said that. Imagine people died. Because that was even part of what we wanted to discuss today. Or what happened. A lot of people died. And we carried on as nothing. And I want to talk to all those people that are saying that the president still went ahead to host his, party leaders and all of that. There was a party in Lagos that was themed the Lagos Party.
Imagine.
That was trending, that all the who is who in the celebrity world, they were there. So why didn't they cancel that party? Because
aside from that,
you know,
why is it that the people that attended what the president actually organized, why are they not asking him questions there?
It's not. See, let's even leave that one. I'm saying that we cannot have double standards. What is good for one is good for another. If there's something that has happened like that, to that extent, that massacre happened, that a lot of people were killed, everybody should go into sack clothing and say, you know what, we are tired of this. And that's why this readiness, you know, I don't think we are ready. So I like the fact that, yes, we are jumping on something. Yes, I've read through all his tweets about the name of Jesus, you know, how it makes demons bow down. Of course, I understand what Samuel was talking about, the spiritual angle that you must arrest. And again, because I always say, my pastor always says that battles are won in two places, one in the spiritual realm and physically. So definitely you must arrest all the forces and the hold of darkness over the land, because you can clearly see that there's a lot going on that our eyes cannot see. Because if not, how would you explain a country that is so blessed? You have every single thing to make you a success as a country, and yet you do not have any iota of success. Right? So how do you explain it? You must understand that, yes, there are spiritual holds on this country that needs to be brought down. Those strongholds needs to be brought down. But I'm saying that as we are putting that out there, again, some people have come out to say he's always talked about PVC. I'm saying that now, because of the drive, because of where we are, right, we can't have people just talk one-sided anymore. Let the conversation always, let the drive and the movement be holistic at every single time, because we do not even have enough time anymore. Before you blink, you open it. We already have this year, half year is gone. You know, so we do not have that time. We do not have the luxury of time. So we need to get to that point where we are angry. You know, anger, you know, is not supposed to be a negative energy. Anger is good, because anger tells you that, you know what, I can do better than this, right? So that's what anger is supposed to do for you as an emotion. I don't know why people preach anger as if it's a bad thing. It's not. You know, so Nigerians have not gotten to that point of anger. Some people were killed, and we went about our businesses. We were partying. We did everything. So while we were shouting and saying the president was hosting whatever they were doing party, we were doing our own party. We didn't say we were going to stop our party. Right? So my point is, let this trend. It's fine. The Jesus name, we need it. We need Jesus in our lives. Everybody needs Jesus. But I'm saying that as we are doing that, let us also understand. And for me, I've always said it, the conversation is not PVC. The conversation is not PVC. So I'm not even looking at 2023. Can we start to register in political parties? Let's start to engage those party people. Because now there are delegates that are sitting somewhere in Abuja trying to decide who the APC presidential candidate will be come 2023. Do you understand? Who is influencing the minds of those people? So those are the kinds of conversations that I want us to drive. Beyond just prayer, because Nigerians, we just believe that, everything, prayer doesn't solve everything. Prayer only gives you the wisdom to be able to apply sense and, you know, do the work to be able to solve a problem. Right? But prayer in itself will not solve the problem. So you cannot sit down and you are praying that, God, I will not die of hunger. I will not die of hunger. And you sit down there. If you don't get up to cook a meal and eat, you will die of hunger.
I was going to say God help us, but yes, still, we need the wisdom to do the right things. Everyone, please get your PVC. I know that, you know, some people, it's not easy for them to leave their work or leave their businesses to go. I don't know if it has closed now, but at any opportunity that you get, please try as much as you can to get your PVC, because we have to feel this pain. Absolutely. If you are not feeling it, maybe you have to go to these locations, or maybe look for victims that have actually been affected. In fact, we've all been affected one way or another. I know so many people that have been through this whole insecurity thing. See Bamishe, see people that have been killed, people that have been kidnapped. There's so much going on in Nigeria. There's so much blood being shed. 2022 has started since when? And there've been too much chaos, too much drama. And I feel like we need to be tired. Both mentally, physically. Absolutely. And every otherly.
So what it says, the name of Jesus, the Efkomo, is a strong tower. And the righteous runs into it and they are safe. So Jesus is the answer. Okay. Hallelujah. Let me take another comment.
We have a call?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so we have a comment. Good evening, my dear beautiful sisters of ways. So concerning the Jesus trend as a sign of youth readiness to provoke change, the youth of these days are so dependent on God alone for change provocation, but it shouldn't be the case. There is no crime or sin depending on God for a change. But when we do not do our part, God sees us as a bunch of unserious people. A lazy youth will just say God is in control. But he forgets that he has to do his own part for God to support the change. Let me tell you the truth, Sister Owa and Sister Lera. We're not sisters. But yeah.
Just Lera and Owa.
I have given up on Nigeria concerning what is happening these days. Sister Lera, nice to have you back. I miss you a lot. I miss you too, Daniel. Thank you so much. See, Daniel, you understand what we are going through.
I just want to appeal,
Yeah.
you know. So they said faith without work is
It's
dead.
dead.
So when you say that the name of Jesus is a strong tower, the righteous runs into it and they are safe. Definitely, the name of Jesus will give you safety. It will guarantee a lot of things. But the same Bible also tells you that faith without work is dead. So let us understand that there are challenges in Nigeria. And guess what? Do you know that I keep on saying that there are some climes that you go to, you will not find any reason to pray. And these people don't serve God.
Yes, now.
You will not find any reason to pray. If we took out poverty from Nigeria, would Nigerians still pray? If we took out, like, poverty was no longer an issue, would Nigerians still pray? So you must understand that the problems that we have as a people is deeper, you understand? And if we start to eliminate those problems, you see this prayer, going to church 10 times a day, everything will drop. Because guess what? People will not have any reason to go to church anymore.
Limiting beliefs, that's what we do have. And I really pray that we as Nigerians will understand. God should give us that wisdom more for faith and work to be put together. Because if we keep saying, yes, Jesus will save Nigeria, God will save Nigeria, yes, God will save Nigeria, but what are you doing about it? You have to look at yourself.
You have to play your role.
You have to play your role.
Absolutely.
You do your part.
On that note, thank you, Lyra.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you to everyone that called and sent in their messages and watched. Thank you so much. We do not take it for granted. All right, so before we go, I just wanted to say that, please, I'm not against us praying, right? It's never my intention. I just want us to understand that there is wisdom, right, in doing what is right. You know, so let's not mix those things up. There's a part of prayer and there's a place for work. All right, so ensure you follow us on Instagrams at Wayshow Africa. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and more importantly, follow all our engagements. Drop your comments, like, share, and invite your families and friends to watch and follow the conversation. Now, if you missed today's quote, I really love this quote. It says, leadership is about empathy. It is about having the ability to relate to and connect with people for the purpose of inspiring and empowering lives, right? Sometimes our religion does not empower us, right? Instead, it keeps us subservient, it keeps us going, you know. So we need to be empowered. Not just to say, okay, I can pray and all of that. Empowered, all-rounded empowerment. I can't emphasize this enough. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Concern grows over the buildup of Russian troops along its border with Ukraine. What can the U.S. and its European allies do to prevent or punish a Russian invasion? and a look inside how Ukrainians are preparing to defend themselves. Now, on the Inside Story, the Ukraine-Russia crisis. Hi, I'm Anita Powell, VOA White House correspondent. Behind me is the West Wing of the White House, where President Joe Biden works. The president is briefed daily on a number of issues of national security, lately about Russia's growing military buildup along its border with Ukraine. The U.S. says more than 100,000 Russian troops are amassed at the border, ready to invade at the command of President Vladimir Putin. Among his demands, Ukraine must never be a part of NATO. The U.S. and its allies say the decision is Ukraine's to make. They are supplying weaponry to Ukraine and fortifying defenses throughout the region. We will get the details on troop movements and preparations inside Ukraine later in the show. First, Washington's view of the crisis. Strong words from U.S. President Joe Biden as the drama deepens between Moscow and Washington.
We continue to urge diplomacy as the best way forward. But with Russia's continuing its buildup of its forces around Ukraine, we are ready no matter what happens.
President Vladimir Putin has deployed tens of thousands of troops along the Ukrainian border, not just within Russian territory, but also in Belarus. The White House says more than 105,000 Russian troops surround Ukraine on two sides. Russia objects to Ukraine's desire to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and has demanded that the U.S., the most powerful member of the Collective Security Alliance, bar Ukraine's entry. Washington announced on February 2nd that the U.S. would send about 2,000 U.S.-based troops to Poland and Germany and shift 1,000 soldiers from Germany to Romania.
These movements are unmistakable signals to the world that we stand ready to reassure our NATO allies and deter and defend against any aggression.
But military officials have not given up on a diplomatic solution.
We do not believe conflict is inevitable. The United States, in lockstep with our allies and partners, has offered Russia a path to de-escalate. But we will take all prudent measures to assure our own security and that of our allies.
The top U.S. diplomat at the UN says the stakes have never been higher.
The situation we're facing in Europe is urgent and dangerous, and the stakes for Ukraine and for every UN member state could not be higher. Russia's actions strike at the very heart of the UN Charter. This is as clear and consequential a threat to peace and security as anyone can imagine.
Russia fired back, with its ambassador saying Russia does not intend to invade. This dispute between Russia and the U.S. and its NATO allies is about much more than ideology, says analyst and author Angela Stent. A stable Europe is central to U.S. interests, and sending more than $200 million worth of security assistance to non-NATO Ukraine is part of that.
It's not only ideology, it's security. I mean, it's, a system of alliances and a stable European continent, which are in the U.S.'s interests. We don't live in isolation. We're a very large island with two neighbors, right? We're a continent. But so it's more than that. It's not about ideology. It's about power politics, but it's also about principles. Which do have to do with territorial integrity and sovereignty.
Meanwhile, Russia and top U.S. rival China have become ever closer. Beijing expressed dissatisfaction when Russia invaded Georgia, while China hosted the 2008 Olympics. The Chinese capital will host the Winter Games starting this week. With the U.S. threatening heavy sanctions against Russia, and even against Putin himself, if Russia invades Ukraine, Moscow will need support from the world's second largest economy. Analysts say this could play out slowly as the Olympics take center stage and Washington continues to remind Moscow of the consequences of an invasion.
If it does move into Ukraine, then the economic measures that the United States and others are going to bring to bear, to a certain extent, will push them even further into a junior relationship with China, which is just going to hurt their economy in the long run. I don't really see a lot of strong outcomes here. So that's one of the reasons why I think that diplomatic outcome might still be on the table, but Russia's going to try to let the clock run as long as possible to let us feel uncomfortable.
And so, as the games begin in Beijing and the war games continue on both sides of Ukraine's border, can these two old rivals find their way back to peace? As Russian officials continue to deny their intention to invade Ukraine, the military buildup continues. VOA Chief Diplomatic Correspondent Cindy Sain reports Russian officials are willing to de-escalate military activity if the White House will address their main security concerns.
Russian President Vladimir Putin made his first comments in weeks Tuesday about Ukraine, blaming the U.S. and NATO for the mounting tensions.
Their most important goal is to contain Russia. That's the thing. In this sense, Ukraine itself is just a tool to achieve this goal. This can be done in different ways. One of them is to draw us into some armed conflict.
But experts note Putin is the one who deployed more than 100,000 Russian troops to Ukraine's border, Crimea, and Belarus to bolster his demand that NATO pull some of its forces out of Eastern Europe and promise to never admit Ukraine. With this military buildup, Putin has put himself into a box, says former CIA military analyst Jeffrey Edmonds.
He's made very maximalist demands that he knows that we can't. I would assume that he knows we can't meet. We're not going to withdraw NATO infrastructure back to 1997 levels, which is one of the things that they've asked us to do. And so I think he's in a holding pattern waiting for the right military composition on Ukraine's border in order to actually take military action.
President Joe Biden says he and Putin understand each other, but Biden has also said he believes Putin is planning to invade Ukraine. Some experts say Putin wants to make sure Russia is still viewed as a major player on the world stage. Angela Stent wrote the book Putin's World.
And he believes that the rest of the world should treat Russia as if it were the Soviet Union. He doesn't want to restore the Soviet Union, but he wants to be treated as a great power whose views are respected and where people sort of fear Russia and they accept that Russia has a right to this sphere of influence in its neighborhood.
Some experts say Putin likely sees eastern Ukraine, where a war has been simmering since he annexed Crimea in 2014, as part of Russia.
So I think Putin might acknowledge that Western Ukraine is genuinely Ukrainian and perhaps belongs in the European cultural and political world, but in his eyes, Eastern Ukraine is sort of a version or an extension of Russia.
But what Putin really fears the most is dissent from his own people, says Bill Browder, founder of the Magnitsky Justice Campaign.
The average Russian is worse off, a lot worse off than when he first became president. And that's all, he owns that. That's all on him. And so he's pulling this strategy straight out of the dictator's playbook, that when people are mad at you, make them mad at somebody else, start a war.
During his New Year address to the nation, Putin did not mention that he implemented a major crackdown on his critics. The most influential one, Alexei Navalny, was jailed 1 year ago after he survived a poisoning attack. Cindy Sain, VOA News.
As Russian forces gather along Ukraine's border, the Pentagon has placed 8,500 troops on heightened alert for possible deployment to NATO countries in Eastern Europe. VOA Pentagon correspondent Carla Babb spoke with Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby about the U.S. position and potential military involvement.
The president has been very clear that that in the event of another invasion of Ukraine by Russian forces, the U.S. forces will not be engaged on the ground in combat to help bolster the alliance on the eastern flank and to prove our dedication to that very ironclad security commitment inside NATO.
And so clearly, by invading Ukraine, Russia would put the pressure on the U.S. and NATO to bolster their eastern flank with troops and other defenses, yes?
Look, I would argue that already there's a feeling of some pressure inside the alliance to make sure that it is clear to Mr. Putin how seriously all the allies take our mutual defense requirements. So we've got to make sure that that not only do we send a strong signal about NATO solidarity, but that the alliance really is solidly prepared to defend itself if needed.
You mentioned the building up of defenses, and one of those domains that we have in the defense world is cyber. The Deputy National Security Advisor for Cyber is in Europe as we speak. Would a cyber attack on Ukraine constitute a Russian incursion?
Well, I think I'd say what the president said was any incursion in Ukraine would trigger economic consequences, and I think I'd rather not characterize it beyond that. That said, you're right that we have seen this out of the Russian playbook before, the use of cyber operations to sow discord or to try to incite violence, to disrupt infrastructure. And we would not be surprised to see that again used by Russia in the run-up to perhaps something more conventional from a military perspective. And we have, as you know, we have a small number of trainers in Ukraine, and since 2014, the United States has helped contribute to better cyber resilience inside Ukraine. Not to say it's perfect, but I think the Ukrainians understand too that that is a tool that the Russians could use, and that we all need to be mindful of that and to be watching out for it.
You have said here in this room that Russia has more than 100,000 troops at the border with Ukraine. Russia is denying that currently, so why not declassify some intelligence to show who's telling the truth? Well,
look, I mean, we're confident in our assessments, and we are careful in the degree to which we talk about those assessments. I think that's the prudent thing to do here when you're dealing with an actor like Russia. They also have denied that they have any intention to invade Ukraine again, to violate Ukrainian sovereignty. So, a way to prove that would be to take those more than 100,000 troops and send them back home, rather than keep them arrayed as they are around the eastern and northeastern border of Ukraine, down south around Crimea, and then in occupied Crimea, and then in Belarus too.
And then the final question, you've been talking about the escalation that Russia has been doing. Have they shown any signs of de-escalating at this point?
No, they have not. As I said, even just as recently as today, we continue to see the flow of additional combined arms capabilities from elsewhere in Russia to the border with Ukraine and into Belarus. So, no, there's been no sign from a military perspective of de-escalation. Now, on the diplomatic side, there was an exchange between Minister Lavrov and Secretary Blinken, and I think you heard Secretary Blinken say that he still believes that there's time and space for dialogue, and we, of all people, we absolutely fully support that and want to see that happen. That's the best way forward here to de-escalate this, this potential crisis here. But from a military perspective, no, we continue to see added capability, and that's deeply concerning.
Ukraine's leaders are trying to calm anxieties of a country trying to conduct business as usual. But it's hard to dismiss the threat across the border. Our Ricardo Marquina has been reporting from inside Ukraine for more than a week, watching Ukrainians trade war preparation tips on social media while trying to live life as normal. Here's his report from Ukraine's capital, Kyiv.
On the outskirts of Kiev, a group of about 200 men and women receive military training. They are civilians who have joined the Territorial Defence Force, a reserve corps set up by authorities to support the Ukrainian armed forces in the event of a conflict. They train on their own time and they buy their own weapons.
I am here to learn fighting techniques and support the army to defend Ukraine.
Russian military pressure on Ukraine, with a massive deployment not far from its eastern border, has once again raised the spectre of war. For many here, the question is not whether there will be a war, but when.
Putin believes that there is no country called Ukraine and that he has to take it under his control. Since he could not do it by changing his government from within, He only has one option left, the military path.
After more weeks of intense media reporting on a possible conflict, those in charge of these exercises want to reduce tensions among the Ukrainian population and are urging calm, including among these trainees.
Our commanders tell us, clean the gun, get ready, and don't panic. That is the Ukrainian way.
The following workday, these men and women will return to their jobs in the city, while in Moscow and Washington, the political tug-of-war that could push them to war will continue. For Ricardo Marquina in Kiev, John Spear, VOA News.
Miroslava Gongadze has covered Ukraine for VOA since 2004 as anchor of our daily TV news show Chaz Time and chief of our Ukrainian service. She has recently been promoted to VOA's Eastern Europe chief, based in Kyiv. I spoke to Miroslava about how the crisis is being handled in Ukraine.
It feels like living near the volcano that can erupt any time. So they kind of get used to this permanent, constant threats, and they cope with it. However, this recent months, the threat is more imminent. So people are starting preparing more. They are signing up for defense. Local defense groups. They are buying arms. They are buying weapons. They are legally, obviously, it's possible to buy weapons in Ukraine. They are creating safe houses. They are planning their escape routes. They are planning to take their families out.
Do you think that these are evenly matched forces?
Unfortunately, it's definitely not evenly matched forces. I have to say that Ukrainians' armed forces are heavily outnumbered and outgunned by Russia's army. But military experts say that they would be capable of mounting significant resistance and inflicting heavy casualties if Russia were to launch a large-scale invasion.
Let's talk about the different messages coming out of Washington and Kyiv, with the White House saying that invasion is imminent, and President Zelensky saying this is overblown. There's no need to overreact. Can you explain to us why we're hearing those two messages and what the consequences of that mixed messaging could be?
My take would be that it's just probably unimaginable for Ukrainians and for Ukrainian government that something like that can happen, meaning that full-scale invasion can happen. Everybody understands that this, if this invasion will happen, that will change Ukraine, it will change the Europe, and will change the
world, is what President Joe Biden said. He said this would be the biggest deal since World War II. Do you agree with that statement?
I totally agree with that. I think the Joseph Biden and our U.S. NATO allies understand, specifically Europeans who are close to member of European Union and those who are close to Russia, like Poland, Romania, those countries in the North, Baltic states. They are aware of Russian threats, and they feel and understand it the most. And they do ask United States and NATO to help and to support more.
And then finally, I just want to talk about some of the other players on this very complex chessboard. We see this as a big contest between NATO and Russia, with Ukraine caught in the middle. But let's talk about the other characters. We also have China, and we also have Turkey. Those are two that come to mind.
Turkey is trying to play both cards. They need to maintain their good economic, specifically political relationship with Russia. But at the same time, they do want to have Ukraine, to support Ukraine as well. In terms of China is for years trying to put their foot into Ukrainian economy, and there are some forces in Ukrainian government, in the Ukrainian parliament, who are supporting China's involvement and bigger engagement with China.
Any clash between Russia and Ukraine will threaten Europe's energy security. The European Union gets about a third of its natural gas from Russia. Economic sanctions are expected to target Russia's energy sector, and China is watching the situation with great interest. Our Henry Ridgewell has the inside story from London.
Western nations have threatened unprecedented economic sanctions against Moscow if it invades Ukraine. If cut off by the West, could Russia look east to China for help?
The policy I think China is likely to take is to do whatever they can to help the Russians to face up to the economic sanctions that the US and Europeans may impose on Russia. Economic links between China and Russia are not really strong enough to replace any break off of economic links between Russia and Europe.
China has offered political support for Moscow in its standoff over Ukraine.
This foreign policy coordination will definitely increase because from the Russian perspective, intensification of the military partnership between Russia and China is precisely one of the major pains which Russia can inflict to the United States and NATO.
Meanwhile, China is closely watching NATO and America's response to any Russian invasion.
Even though there's these troop deployments to Eastern European states, no states are talking about directly sending troops into Ukraine itself to defend. And of course, China is taking note of that with some of their own territorial disputes in their own area.
Taiwan is China's biggest territorial dispute, and there is a risk of miscalculation as Beijing watches events unfold in Ukraine, says Steve Tsang.
The Chinese seeing the Americans and the Europeans talking big, but not doing very much about it, which would embolden them over Taiwan and potentially miscalculate what the American responses to a crisis over Taiwan might be.
Despite their mutual rivalry with the US, China and Russia's interests don't always align. Beijing's multi-trillion-dollar Belt and Road Initiative cuts through several former Soviet bloc states, including Ukraine. A direct rail and ferry freight link opened in 2016, linking China with Ukraine's Black Sea coast via Georgia, Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan, bypassing Russia. China has also funded infrastructure projects, including a new metro line for Kiev. If Russia invades Ukraine, could Beijing's investments in the region be at risk?
The more immediate impact on the Belt and Road Initiative would in fact be the Russian military intervention in Kazakhstan. And the Chinese government actually have shown that they are quite relaxed and comfortable with that. To them, it's more important to support authoritarian states and autocrats to stay in power, and then for some of them to be closer to Russia than to China at the moment. Over the longer term, things may change.
In the short term, analysts say China is keen to keep a lid on the simmering tensions for at least the next few weeks as it prepares to host the Winter Olympics. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
Thanks for watching. Follow me on Twitter at 6armspowell. Connect with VOA News on Instagram and Facebook, and stay with voanews.com for all the latest news and information. See you next week for the Inside Story.
So what are the top decisions that the United States considers necessary that Nigeria must take?
I like to think of my interactions as conversations, not interviews. And that's why I say asking questions is both an art and a science. Everyone says in Islam you are allowed to have 4 wives. Is it mandatory? The right question enables answers that educate, inform, clarify, and help you, the viewer, to better understand the issue before making up your mind.
Our goal is to reduce from 10 to 2 days the time it takes to register businesses in Nigeria.
Join me every week on this station plus TV Africa and gain exclusive access to my conversations. I'm Angela Ajetumobi.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, then go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.
Yahaya Designs is a fashion accessory label that specializes in the design and creation of handcrafted bags and footwear. I knew I was going to do something in fashion. I didn't know what exactly it was going to be, but I knew I would be in fashion. If it used to be the cleaner in fashion, whatever, but I have to be in fashion. When we started off with just strictly bag making. But then you get people say, oh, can I get a matching shoe? And then over time, people say, oh, I would like to give my boyfriend a wallet, but I want it with Ankara or something. So over time, we had to listen to our customers and infuse their ideas into our brand. Okay, we wanted something with the African touch, with the Nigerian feel. We make leather bags. But if I'm making a leather bag and I put it in a store, if you don't know Yahaya Designs is Nigerian, you probably think it's a foreign bag. So what's the point of promoting something that is not, if you look at, you can't link it to Africa, you can't link it to Nigeria. Wanted something to promote Africa, wanted something to promote Nigeria. We also want to empower our artisans here. So that's why we keep our content local, raw materials local, production local. We still get a lot of people from around the world ordering from our website. So I believe it's because of what we've built, the brand we've built over time that still speaks for us. In the last 3 years, we've done over 10,000 items. We've sold over 10,000 items to both corporate clients, retail clients, and wholesale clients.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
So what are the top decisions that the United States considers necessary that Nigeria must take? I like to think of my interactions as conversations, not interviews. And that's why I say asking questions is both an art and a science. Everyone says in Islam you are allowed to have 4 wives. Is it mandatory? The right question enables answers that educate, inform, clarify.
Hello and welcome to Space and Style, a property show designed to connect various stakeholders across the property value chain. We can also provide realistic solutions and deepen your knowledge about the interesting world of real estate. We shall showcase architectural design, interior design trends, lifestyle and real-time property news updates, and the right way to navigate through property development and investment. Join me every week on this channel as I take you through an exciting journey in the world of real estate.
Space and Style, 6:30 p.m. on Saturdays and 5:30 p.m. on Wednesdays.
On Plus TV News now, APC presidential primary kicks off at Eagle Square, Abuja. Transition period officially set at 24 months in Mali. U.S. envoy says North Korea could conduct nuclear tests anytime. Good evening, I am Adebanke Odunoye and this is News Now. The chairman of the All Progressives Congress APC, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, has implored all party members at the Eagle Square venue of its presidential primary to be honest in their conduct throughout the poll. He has, however, warned journalists covering the poll to exercise their entrenched freedom of the press with a sense of decorum and care.
The contest for president in all the political parties has heated the polity. It is particularly so with our party, which parades the largest number of aspirants. It is said that in war, as in all serious socio-political contests, truth is the first casualty. It is so in this context. We have watched with growing concern the feeding frenzy in the mainstream media and the irrelevant social media. The general public is daily fed with facts that are no longer than fiction about our party and even the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Wild speculations, half-truths, and blatant lies dominate political discourse because they are calculated attempts to mislead the uninformed and excite primordial sentiments. We recognize the people's right to freedom of speech and of the press, but all freedoms impose a measure of responsibility on those who exercise them and how they are exercised. A reckless exercise of that freedom from the high and the low impinges on the rights and responsibilities of all citizens. The struggle for the attainment of political power is a personal and legitimate aspiration, but it must not be the reason to divide our party or tear us apart. The inherent beauty in democracy is that all those who seek the mandate of the people must submit themselves to the judgment of the people in the electoral process.
As the National Convention of the ruling All Progressives Congress is underway, former Senate President Ken Nnamani and two other presidential aspirants have stepped down for Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. APC chieftain and chairman Senate Committee on Independent National Electoral Commission INEC Kabiru Gaya disclosed this while briefing newsmen in Abuja. Although he did not mention who the other aspirants are, there are speculations that they are ex-Ogun State Governor Ibikunle Amosu and a deputy majority leader of the Senate Ajayi Borough. Meanwhile, the Director General of the Yemi Osinbajo campaign organization, Senator Kabiru Gaya, has confirmed the development, saying that the list of presidential aspirants in the All Progressives Congress has been trimmed to just two: Vice President Yemi Osinbajo and former Governor Bola Tinubu of Lagos State, even as he stated that three aspirants had stepped down. Gaya, who represents Kano South Senatorial District, claimed that three presidential aspirants had stepped down for the vice president, but also did not identify them. Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello has said that any attempt to exclude him from participating in the presidential primary of the All Progressives Congress APC is a recipe for bigger trouble. Bello, who stated this after a meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari, said he is a free citizen and a qualified member of the party. He believes he will win overwhelmingly if the process and normal regulations are followed.
I am a free citizen, a free member of the party, a qualified member of the party. I contested. I'm contesting. I bought the form. I was cleared to participate in the election. And no reason for me to be excluded from the ballot. If they do so, then that is a recipe for a bigger trouble for the party. However, I don't think it's a decision of the party. It is a decision of few elites who may decide to use their whatever position to suppress the so-called minority. But I want to prove that in this country, I am not in the minority. We have the majority. I belong to the younger generation. I belong to the generation of Nigerians that are oppressed, and they are saying they must have their voice. And I believe strongly that getting into that arena today, I will win overwhelmingly. If the process and the normal regulations are followed, I will emerge victorious. I respect President Muhammadu Buhari, the leader of our party, and I respect the party. If the president asks me to step down, I will do. Only Mr. President. Mr. President did not ask anyone to step down. Mr. President said, let the delegate decide who becomes the flag bearer of our party. And he did not say anyone should be excluded. I am very optimistic that APC will return to power if we play by the rules of the game. Following all the laws, non-exclusion of anybody who wants to participate, and carrying everybody along, and ensuring that there's fairness, equity, and justice.
We are now being joined by Plus TV Africa correspondent Emmanuel Ehijene, joining us live from the Eagle Square. Thank you for joining us, Emmanuel. Can you hear me, Emmanuel? I'll try once again. Emmanuel, can you hear me? Okay, we will have to catch up with Emmanuel later on. Should I try again? Emmanuel, can you hear me? Emmanuel? We would have to catch up with Emmanuel later during the bulletin. So right now we're being joined by Plus TV Africa correspondent Marianne Okon. Thank you for joining us, Marianne. Thank you for joining us. So what are the situation of things now at the Eagle Square? Can you hear me, Marianne? Okay, we seem to be having some technical issues. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
It for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Thank you for joining us. We are now being joined by Plus TV Africa correspondent Emmanuel Ehijene, who is at Eagle Square covering the event. Thank you for joining us, Emmanuel.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, can you bring us up to speed with the event at the Eagle Square? What is happening at the moment?
Okay, what is actually happening at the moment is that most of the aspirants were given 2 minutes to canvass, to tell all the delegates that are present here today the reason why they should be given the opportunity to lead the party as the presidential aspirant of the APC come 2023. And so far, 5 of the aspirants have really addressed the delegates. The first to address the delegates was the former governor of Lagos State, Ahmed Tinubu, who, in his usual sagacity, told the delegates how he is going to transform the economy of Nigeria. how he took Lagos State from an insecure state to a well-developed state. He also went as far as saying that if given the opportunity, he was going to fight insurgency and banditry. In fact, every other contestant that climbed the podium was also speaking on the same vein. The next person that spoke was the... Hello, are you with me?
Yes, I am. Continue, please.
Okay. The next person that took the stage was the president of the Nigerian Senate, Ahmed Lawa. He also spoke in similar vein. So, as it is now, all the contestants have been given 2 minutes each to address the delegates. That is the stage that we are now at the Eagle Square.
Okay, so I'm going to ask, you are obviously a journalist, and I want to ask, was getting into the event center, that's Eagle Square, was it easy or was it a bit tough for journalists who wanted to cover the event?
Well, I will speak from a personal experience. My getting into this place was a real hell. Most of the journalists were trapped outside. The security agency, the security agents were being overzealous. I didn't know why they wouldn't want journalists to come and report a very important event like this. So we were all crowded outside. In fact, we were tear gassed 4 times before we were able to get into the venue proper. In fact, it was not easy. It started with accreditation. The accreditation was supposed to begin 2 days ago. All the journalists converged at the ICC for the accreditation, only for the committee to come later to tell us that it has been shifted to the next day. We got to the ICC the next day, it was shifted to today. We got there today, they kept playing, I don't know, but it was not easy. At the end of the day, we were seriously tear gassed before we finally find our way into the venue of the convention.
Okay, so sorry about that, but thank you very much for joining us. We will hopefully connect with you later to find out what is happening.
It's all right, thank you.
We're now being joined by Plus TV Africa correspondent, Marianne Okon. Thank you for joining us, Marianne.
And the progressive-minded...
Thank you, Banker. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, I can hear you now. So does it seem that the party is ready to unite and pick a candidate?
Well, for those of us who've been watching, because I guess that every Nigerian's eye is on, the Eagle Square, and I've been following the trends on social media, looking at people's posts, and every single person seems to be commenting, on the primaries. Now, the confusion within the party, as you noticed earlier on when we spoke with Professor Mokobia, who's also a delegate from the Southeast at the APC primaries and convention tonight, there seems to be mixed communication. There is communication coming from the national chairman, there's communication coming from Mr. President, there's communication coming from different places, and there seems not to be a uniting voice. And one would have hoped that Mr. President would be that uniting voice that would lead the people to some form of compromise or agreement or a consensus candidate. But as it is, Mr. President has spoken and has said that everybody should go out and vote, and the delegates would be the ones who would be voting. So it's a case of may the best man win. But then what one would be considering right now is how united the party is right now, as opposed to, there being factions or a few ruffled feathers. And we're also looking at the fact that how will the party survive right after this convention? I think that's the major, thing that people are on the lookout for.
Okay, you just mentioned something about disagreement and miscommunication. How do you think that's going to affect the outcome of this primaries?
Just as I said, a lot of people are not certain because there had been closed-door meetings even before the event in itself started. These closed-door meetings started yesterday, and there have been meetings in different forums. We've had the Southwest, candidates, have some form of quorum. They had a meeting. We've seen governors also have a meeting. We've seen the National Working Committee also have meetings. So I'm guessing that at the end of the day, if if there has been an agreement, which we are not yet aware of, it would be more of for the interest or in the interest of the party, let us all come together because we have an opposition to defeat. But then, as we saw Pastor Tunde Bakare speak earlier on today, he did say that he had not had any communication as to a consensus candidate. We also saw Tienye Jack Rich also speaking about the fact that he's going to come out, speak to the delegates, talk to them about the fact that money politics is not necessarily the way to go, because he did say that most of the people who are tossing money around, in his words, are not people who really worked for these monies, and they did not get those monies through legal means. I do not know what he meant by that, but he also spoke about the fact that he had worked hard. He started from the scratch and he has built his business to what it is or where it is. And he believes that Nigeria should go for someone like him, who he has said is more trustworthy. But we also have other candidates like the transportation minister. We've also seen a very angry governor of Kogi State who seems to say, look, I respect Mr. President, I respect the party, but I would only step down if Mr. President asked me to. So in other words, the issue of consensus may be jettisoned. And of course, the best man will be the one winning. But I'm guessing that the APC will learn from this convention, being the first that they're having without having to, put out a consensus candidate. This is the first time in 2 years, 2 election cycles, that the APC will be going, in this, going this wrap delegates voting candidates, and they will learn about commission, and of course, it's the ultimate.
Okay, so in your opinion, who are the ones to watch? Who are the big wigs, the ones that everyone is, should I say, saying that would win or would lose or something? Who do you think are the people?
Well, I really don't know if we can call that right now. The night is still young, but from chatter, within the party, we can tell that it seems to be between Mr. Vice President and, of course, the former Lagos State Governor, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And from some of the people that we've spoken to, they keep saying, well, the leader of the party has been, formidable. He has played a role in, the political lives of so many of these people even contesting today, but that they would rather hope he steps down for the vice president. But then again, we know that politics, involves a lot of horse trading, and sometimes it's not necessarily sentiments, it's interest. And there might be people who might be interested in what the former Lagos State Governor has to offer. There might be also people who are interested in what the Vice President has to offer. Lots of people are advocating that they want a young, agile, viable person to run. And some people would even scratch Mr. Vice President off that list and go for maybe the Transportation Minister, maybe a Tienye Jack Rich, or maybe even a Kogi State Governor. But then, the decision lies solely with the delegates, and we'll be watching to see, who emerges at the end of the day. So the fingers are all crossed. Of course, hearts are racing, and Nigerians are watching.
Thank you very much, Marianne Okun, for joining us.
Thank you.
And moving on, tragedy struck in the camp of Jigawa State delegates to the ongoing presidential primary as one of the Jigawa All Progressives Congress delegates, Isa Baba Buji, slumped and died while attending the presidential primary of the party in Abuja. The deceased, who slumped and died reportedly of suspected heart failure, was Assistant APC Chairman in charge of the Jigawa Central Zone. Jigawa APC Public Relations Officer Malam Bashir Kundu, who confirmed the incident, said the deceased was rushed to the hospital and died before arriving at the hospital. Operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, have stormed the Eagle Square venue of the All Progressives Congress APC Special Convention in Abuja. The officials went around the convention venue before finally taking strategic positions. The visits might not be unconnected with the recent social media reports indicating that delegates were paid hugely by presidential aspirants for votes at the convention. The Court of Appeal in Abuja has granted an order of interim injunction restraining the Senate President, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, INEC, and 3 others from executing, enforcing, or relying on the judgment delivered by Justice Mohammed Liman of the Federal High Court, Kano, on 3rd of June 2022. The appeal court restrained them following an ex parte application filed by the national chairman of the APC, Adamu Abdullahi. The 3 others are Senator Masood Doguwa, Honorable Habibu Sani, and Honorable Biliamimo Shinkafi. All 6 are jointly listed as respondents to the suit. A federal high court sitting in Abakaliki has nullified the rescheduled primary elections of the Ebonyi State People's Democratic Party. The court ruled that the primary election, which took place on June 5th and 6th and produced Senator Obinna Ogba as the governorship candidate, was illegal, unconstitutional, null and void. The court also upheld the primary election conducted on May 29th, which produced Ifeanyi Odi as the governorship candidate of the party. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Lagos State has revealed that only 3,000 applicants have come for the collection of their permanent voter cards, PVCs, 1 month after it flagged off the distribution of about 34,000 newly printed cards for new registrants across the state. The resident Electoral Commissioner, Olusegun Agbaje, made this known at a news conference on Youth Vote Count, an awareness campaign to mobilize and get youths registered in the continuous voter registration held at Tafawa Balewa Square in Lagos. The INEC boss said that the CVR would end on June 30th, adding that INEC did not have any intention of extending this closing date for registration. Activities in the National Assembly were grounded to a halt yesterday as members of the Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria, PASAN, and National Assembly Service Commission began an indefinite strike action. The strike action is in demand for the implementation of a subsisting memorandum of understanding for payment of all arrears and other conditions of service to staff of the unions. Emmanuel Ehijene completes this report.
The strike action by the workers was necessitated by the National Assembly management's refusal to keep an agreement reached and jointly signed by the Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria, the National Assembly Service Commission on 13th April 2021. The striking workers mounted a blockade at the entrance of the National Assembly complex, preventing lawmakers, staff of various financial institutions operating inside the complex, and others from gaining access. The workers insisted that the industrial action will continue until all agreements are met, including revised conditions of service, training and retraining of staff, payment of minimum wage arrears, leave grant, and other allowances.
The manager of the National Assembly, starting from the Senate President and the Speaker down to the clerk, have refused to honor an agreement we reached in 2018. The agreement was based on a revised condition of service for staff of the National Assembly, where some allowances were increased, while some were added. This issue, like I said, has been on since 2018, and to today, they have not implemented the said agreement. They started with some of the allowances last year, but by January this year, they stopped all payments, claiming that the Salary and Wages Commission has not approved those allowances.
Efforts by an official from the Human Resource Department of the National Assembly could not assuage the protesters.
This management is not out to deny us of anything. Yes. And if there is anything that the management is hiding, I don't think management will agree to say that you want to have interface with the entire staff of National Assembly and the Commission. Let us look, no matter how difficult a situation is, we need to sit down, discuss it. We are not talking of another negotiation. That is not what I'm talking about. Nobody is talking about negotiation. But no matter how difficult a situation is, it is only when we have a meeting ground for us to sit down together and talk.
The unions directed all members to stay at home from today in furtherance of the indefinite strike.
Ahead of the 2023 general elections, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, has called on commanders to be apolitical as the electioneering period draws nearer. Lieutenant General Yahaya stated this during the opening ceremony of a 3-day second senior command and leadership seminar organized by the 6th Division of the Nigerian Army in Port Harcourt. The reports.
The Chief of Army Staff, represented by Major General Victor Ezugu, said that they expect appropriate lines of communications between relevant security stakeholders to be established to facilitate cooperation during the planning, preparation, and the execution of operations that would aid civil authorities. The Army Chief expressed optimism that the seminar would afford participants the opportunity to build on their individual capacity and contribute meaningfully towards enhancing Army operations.
A better system of operation ought to be established so as to harness the collective potentials of all security stakeholders for optimal effect. I therefore charge commanders at all levels to ensure that troops under command are adequately enlightened on the need to be apolitical and eschew all political vices.
Major General Ezugu maintained that troops should be adequately trained, equipped, and motivated to play their constitutional roles in supporting the country's security apparatus.
The emergence of the cyberspace as an operational domain and the impact of social media on our operations is one of such issues that require attention. It is desirable that all our troops are adequately trained, equipped, and motivated to play their constitutional roles in support of the federal government of Nigeria.
On his part, the Chief of Training, Major General Abdul Salam Ibrahim, noted that a non-kinetic line of operations is essential in tackling contemporary security challenges, adding that it is currently being reviewed to provide the Nigerian Army with the impetus needed to meet its constitutional mandate.
The theme of the seminar for this year is aptly enhancing the capacity of Nigerian Army senior leader commanders for optimal performance in a complex operating environment. These anchored on the recognition that the current operational environment is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, hence requiring sound leadership and dynamic thinking by our commanders.
Also speaking at the event, the General Officer Commanding GOC of 6th Division of the Nigerian Army in Port Harcourt, Major General Olufemi Oluyede, expressed confidence that the workshop will drive the vision and the philosophy of the Chief of Army Staff.
It's designed to equip the senior commanders and military leaders with skills and mindset needed to better protect and preserve the cherished image of the Nigerian Army in an increasingly political environment of the present-day command.
The theme of the training was building the capacity of Nigerian Army to meet contemporary security challenges in a joint environment, the role of senior leadership.
The Ondo State chapter of the Nigerian Medical Association, NMA, has donated medical consumables to Federal Medical Center Owo for the treatment of survivors of the shootings at St. Francis Catholic Church, Owo, Ondo State, during service. Making the donation on behalf of the association, the state chairperson of the association, Dr. Stella Adegbehingbe, said the donations became necessary to assist the hospital in the treatment of the survivors who sustained varying degrees of injury during the attack. She handed the medical consumables to the management of the Federal Medical Center led by the medical doctor, Dr. Ilyasu Ahmed, who in turn appreciated the donors for their philanthropic gestures and extension of their love to the victims.
The attack was an evil attack, very cruel, satanic. It still leaves sour taste in our mouth, and it's really, really, really very sad. Especially when you see all the victims. These people were unprovoked. The incident occurred. Our colleagues and other health workers and everybody working in the hospital in Owo, FMC Owo, and St. Louis Catholic Hospital Owo rose up to the occasion. Our colleagues did excellently well, and other healthcare professionals, they responded, despite the fact that we have
out of those adults, 6 of them were brought in dead, while 2 children were also brought in dead. Since it has happened, all of us have been up and doing, including the federal government. The directive from Federal Ministry of Health is that we should not collect money from them, and people have been coming to donate, especially the Ondo State government. They brought consumables, and they've also encouraged people to donate. We made them to give us 70 units.
Southern Kaduna People's Union Sokapu has flagged off the distribution of food items, non-food items and relief materials to internally displaced person IDPs in the region. The relief materials to bring succor to the 148 affected communities, with over 200,000 persons displaced, includes children, women in IDP camps and others squatting with their relations in the area. Plus TV correspondent Habilai Darufai files in this report as presented from our studios.
Over the years, Kaduna State, northwest Nigeria, has been worst hit by insecurity activities of banditry, kidnapping for ransom, leading to the loss of lives and properties of innocent citizens in the state. Hundreds of families, communities have left their ancestral homes, farmlands, and sources of livelihood due to fear of the bandits in the area. Speaking at the flag off the distribution at the national headquarters of Sokapu in Barnawa, the president of the union, Jonathan Asake, says the 200 million naira donated by Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers to IDPs was shared between the northern and southern parts to victims across the state. He stated the humanitarian crisis caused by terrorism in southern Kaduna has affected so many communities, families, women and children who are now in dire need of shelter and medical attention.
We are to procure relief items, not only relief items as for food and clothing, but items that also include what has to do with shelter, education.
He expressed shock at the alarming rate of out-of-school children and the number of women in IDPs without good care, and therefore called on governments at all levels to intervene by creating Southern Kaduna Development Commission to help in addressing the plight of the affected persons in the zone.
And we have in our record that no fewer than 148 communities have been displaced out of their homelands. This has resulted in displacing no less than 200,000 people out of their homelands. Mostly the casualties are women and children. Some are in IDP camps, not created by the government. They are in IDP camps that just came, that are provided by either churches or uncompleted buildings. But most of them are being housed by good-spirited individuals and families.
On his part, His Royal Highness Agwan Atiap Dominic Yahaya, who was represented by Elisha Yahaya, says such a gesture will alleviate the suffering of the people in the IDP's camp, and also commended Wike for being an outstanding governor.
We wish the government, parastatals, will do more than what Governor Wenke did. But it's unfortunate that they've not done more than what Governor Wenke did to us. We want to call them to wake up from their sleep and kindly do more than what we expect from them, especially the rebuilding of this complete community that has been raised down.
Speaking on peace-building resolution and unity in southern Kaduna, the national president of the Atiap Community Development Association, Samuel Achie, described the current situation as a great feat for their community.
The southern part of Kaduna and the Atiap community in particular have actually resolved to put behind both political, ethnic, religious, and all kinds of occurrences that led to this crisis, put them behind us and forge ahead.
Call on all well-meaning Nigerians, especially for the wealthy, in a cause like this to actually contribute to the needs of all those that are in need, especially at this time that we have banditry and many other insecurity.
The relief materials include 180 bags of rice, 100 bags of beans, 80 bags of gari, 200 packs of Pampers, 200 cartons of Indomie, 100 bottles of vegetable oil, and educational items, among others.
Still ahead, Cameroon soldiers charged with killing 9 civilians. Details when we return.
Life can be fun and rewarding, but it also comes with some risk. As in business, you win some, you lose some. And that's why you need to be wise in the choices you make. It's like placing a bet. Again, you need to be wise. Wise in choosing an innovative platform with the highest market options and highest odds ever. That's why Winners Golden Bet, the leader in online, in-shop, virtual, and live sports betting, gives you enhanced platforms that offer you the best chances of winning. For betting on live soccer matches, live dog races, and virtual games. Winners Golden Bet is your best bet. Instant payment of winnings guaranteed. Play online or in any of our numerous shops nearest to you.
Hey guys, be wise. Play on Winners Golden Bet.
Winners Golden Bet, the wise choice.
Thank you for joining us. And moving on to other parts of Africa, Mali's military rulers have set the transition period at 24 months. A return to civilian rule following double coups in the country will be delayed until March 2024. It's on state television that the spokesman for the transitional authorities read a decree signed by ruler Assimi Goita. And moving on to in Cameroon, the army in Cameroon has confirmed that soldiers killed 9 civilians, including an 18-month-old girl. An army spokesperson who said that a group of soldiers opened fire when they encountered hostile villagers in Misong in the country's northwest region earlier this month, described the use of weapons as inappropriate and manifestly disproportionate. Cameroon's Ministry of Defense said 4 soldiers have been arrested following the shooting and that an investigation would be launched into the killings. King Philippe of Belgium has landed in the Democratic Republic of Congo as part of a historic visit to the Central African country. The visit comes 2 years after the Belgian king wrote to his Congolese counterpart, President Félix Tshisekedi, to express his deep regrets for the wounds of the past. King Leopold II, the brother of Philip's great-great-grandfather, oversaw the conquest of what is now the DRC, ruling the territory as his personal property between 1885 and 1908 before it became a Belgian colony. And outside Africa, the U.S. Special Representative for North Korea, Sung Kim, has said that North Korea could conduct a 7th nuclear test at any time and has shown no interest in returning to negotiations. He told reporters that the country has launched an unprecedented number of ballistic missiles this year, and its officials have also used rhetoric and that could suggest plans for the use of tactical nuclear weapons. Kim reiterated U.S. assessment that North Korea was preparing to conduct a 7th nuclear test.
Including unacceptable levels of inflation, as well as the headwinds associated
with the disruptions caused by the pandemic's effect on supply chains and the effects of supply-side disturbances to oil and food markets resulting from Russia's war in Ukraine. To dampen inflationary pressures without undermining the strength of the labor market, an appropriate budgetary stance is needed to complement monetary policy actions by the Federal Reserve. In the administration's fiscal 23 budget, we suggest smart, fiscally responsible investments, cutting deficits and keeping the economic burden of debt low. The budget's investments are more than fully paid for through tax code reforms requiring corporations and the wealthiest Americans to pay their fair share, closing loopholes and improving tax administration.
Up next, crude oil exports jumped by 194%, hits 5.6 trillion naira in 3 months. And that's in business news after this short break.
Amid increasing calls for diversification of the economy, Nigeria's crude oil exports jumped to 5.6 trillion naira in the first quarter of 2022, reflecting nearly 200% increase when compared to the same period in 2021. The figure said Nigeria's total merchandise trade stood at 13 trillion naira in the first quarter of 2022, indicating an increase of 11.05% over the value recorded in the fourth quarter of 2021. That's 64.41% higher when compared to the value recorded in the first quarter of the same year. The export trade in the quarter under review stood at 7.1 trillion naira, showing a rise of 23.1% over the value recorded in the preceding quarter. It's also an increase of 137.9% over the corresponding period of the preceding year. And the amount Nigerians spend on electronic bills such as power and other utilities grew by 387.19% from 189.50 billion naira in the first 4 months of 2019 to 923.424 billion naira in the corresponding period of 2022. This is indicating an increase in the use of e-channels by Nigerians. According to the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System, e-bills payment includes everyday bill payment and is an accessible and seamless account-based e-bill payment channel. It's with online real-time transaction reporting, biller notification, and easy reconciliation. Data from the NIBSS revealed a surge in the usage of e-bills pay after the onset of the pandemic. In the first 4 months of 2019, the 189.50 billion naira was paid through e-bill channels, and the first 4 months of 2020, 363.87 billion naira was paid through these channels. And the Association of Food, Beverage and Tobacco Employees, AFBTE, has decried the deplorable state of the infrastructure and insecurity in the country, saying the challenges hamper growth of the food and beverage industry. The employers called on the federal government to find a lasting solution, stating that despite efforts made in the past to address the problem, the government has not accelerated the pace of development. President AFBTE Patrick Anegbe made the appeal at the association's 43rd yearly general meeting in Lagos. He said the gap experienced has been a major drain on resources of member companies as they have had to fund their required infrastructures themselves. And that's the business news. I am Adedolapo Ajayi. The rest of the news continues.
Up next is entertainment news. Banky W has won the House of Representatives primaries for the Etiosa federal constituency under the PDP. He defeated his opponent, Barrister Sam Aiboni, at the rerun, which was held yesterday. He later took to his Instagram page where he penned a lengthy note to appreciate everyone who supported him during the primaries. He also appreciated his opponent at the election for the healthy competition and also didn't forget to thank his wife, Adesua Etomi, for her support during the campaigns. Peter Okoye of P-Square has sent a warning to all prospective visitors to his house and office. In a series of tweets shared via his Twitter page, he said the prerequisite for visitors to have access to his home or office is their PVC, including his management team and entourage. No PVC, no visits and travels. We must get it right this time and vote out bad leaders, he tweeted. Okoye and some of his colleagues have been on the forefront for voter registration ahead of the 2023 general elections. Neve Campbell is quitting the Scream film franchise after 26 years over a salary dispute. While referencing difficulties over establishing herself as a woman in the film industry and Scream series, Neve announced she did not think the wage offer for her appearance in the 6th installment of the long-running slasher series matched the value she had brought to the movies. Neve had played the terrorized main protagonist of the Scream series, Sidney Prescott, in all 5 of the films since 1996. A 32-year-old man has been charged with the murder of British singer Emeli Sandé's rapper ex-boyfriend, Hippo. Laurie John Phillip is accused of killing the performer. John Phillip will appear at Barkingside Magistrates Court, charged with murder and possession of a bladed article. Twisted partygoers are said to have filmed the fight. With at least one recording the moment medical workers attempted to resuscitate the rapper before callously sharing the clip online and sparking fury on social media. And sports news is up next.
Hello and welcome to Sports News on Plus TV Africa. The decision came after Russian figure skater Kamila Valieva tested positive for a banned substance while at the Beijing Winter Olympics in February when she was just 15. Valieva's case prompted questions over whether the minimum age for competitors in figure skating needed to be raised to protect minors. The minimum age for skaters will be 16 years old for the 2023-2024 season and increased to 17 from the 2024 to 2025 season onwards, in time for the 2026 Winter Olympics in Italy. The proposal was passed by 100 votes to 16, with 2 abstentions at the Congress in Phuket, Thailand, well clear of the 2/3 majority required.
We continue our meeting with agenda item A18 and proposal number 2022. Mr. Freddy Schmidt.
So we vote on this proposal. Okay, so please close the vote.
This is a very important decision. Proposal number 22 is accepted. I would say a very historic decision.
New Los Angeles Lakers head coach Darvin Ham believes Russell Westbrook still has a ton left in that tank as he sent his support to the former MVP as well as sending him a stark warning. he wants to see his players make sacrifices and contribute to the defensive side of the game, as he was presented to the media as the main man on Monday after 10 years on the Lakers coaching staff. Ham spoke about the importance of looking after LeBron James' body in the right way and feels the 37-year-old's ceiling is still sky high if he is managed properly. The Los Angeles coach labeled Anthony Davis as the key to any future success the franchise hopes to have and revealed the impact Lakers legend Kobe Bryant had on his coaching career. General Manager Rob Pelinka said Ham's no-nonsense approach made him the perfect candidate to succeed Frank Vogel and believes the 48-year-old can bring a toughness to the team's identity.
Yeah, I would say yes. Russ and I have had some really, really great one-on-one convos, man. And the biggest word I think came out of those discussions were sacrifice. That was the biggest word. It was sacrifice. We're going to sacrifice whatever we got to do. And it's not just Russ. There's going to be sacrifices that LeBron has to make, the AD has to make, on down the line through the rest of our roster. Again, we have to start on the defensive end. And in terms of what his role is going to be, I'm going to expect him to be the same tenacious, high-energy player that he's been on his entire career. A lot of it now may happen without the ball in his hand. Most of it now may happen on the defensive end. But again, we have to sacrifice. There's no achieving anything without all parties, sharing the load, sacrificing, and depending on one another.
Auctioneers are expecting a one-of-a-kind LeBron James trading card to fetch more than $6 million when it goes up for sale this week. The triple logo man card, a single-issue card featuring the 18-time NBA All-Star, includes patches taken from jerseys James wore while with the Cleveland Cavaliers, Miami Heat, and Los Angeles Lakers. Issued by Panini as part of its 2020 to 2021 Flawless collection, the card set off a frenzied hunt among collectors, including Canadian rapper Drake, who bought 10 cases of the pricey basketball cards in a failed attempt to locate it. The card was discovered after a year-long hunt among collectors during a live social media event.
But as soon as Panini came out with the concept, people started setting bounties on the card, starting out with $500,000, then $1 million, then 1.5, then $2 million. And if anybody finds this card, this is what I'll pay you. And that set off the excitement of the bounties and the excitement of finding this rare card that people consider really the holy grail of all modern cards. Set off a fervor, and that's when you saw people, these prices of these boxes escalating from really $7,500 a box upwards of $30,000 for one box.
Yeah, so we were in a random team break with multiple boxes in the break, and the grand finale of this break happened to be Panini Flawless, the set that the triple logo man came out of, and I drew the Miami Heat. That was my random team, one of the 3 random LeBron James teams. And when the card emerged, honestly, I was in disbelief. I was frozen. I was overcome with joy, and it was the thrill of a lifetime. And I don't know if I can ever replicate that feeling again, to be honest. It was just, it was awesome.
And that's all the sports news we have for you for now. Join us next time. My name is Mikhail Tinubu. Have a good night.
And the main news again. APC presidential primary kicks off at Eagle Square, Abuja. Transition period officially set at 24 months in Mali. And U.S. envoy says North Korea could conduct nuclear tests anytime. And that's the news now. For more stories, please follow us on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. I am Ajibanke Odunui. Thank you for watching.